Meeting on August 19th, 2024 to order. Abby, please call the roll.
Mayor Walby,
Here.
Councilmember Karen,
Here.
Councilmember Frederick,
Present.
Councilmember Rubello,
Present.
Councilmember Rusi,
Here.
Councilmember Vitale,
Here.
and Councilmember Burgess has asked to be excused.
Move to excuse.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Karen, supported by Mr. Frederick to excuse Councilwoman Burgess. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2 is proclamations and presentations. I know the first one up is the proclamation for John Agnello. I know he's just parking, so we're going to go to the Shorewood Kiwanis Harper cruise, and then we'll come back to that. But before we go to the cruise, item 9, request for approval of changes to Article 2 municipal civil infractions related ordinances has been moved. We anticipate that coming back in September. And then under consent agenda, 11F, which is request to approve the distribution of the draft master plan update for a 42-day public comment period. We're going to pull that because we're going to move that to a study session, so it will come back again to a consent agenda probably in September for the 42-day public comment period. So those two changes in today's council meeting. With that, we will go to item 2B, and then we'll jump back to 2A. But Shorewood Kiwanis Harper Cruise, August 28, 2024. Come on up. Got a lot of Kiwanians here. Roseanne Minnie, how are you?
Cruisers.
I'm just going to introduce you guys. Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council, and the City of St. Clair Shores residents. This is our team of Shorewood Kiwanis. They all have done something to the Harper Cruise, and if I could just briefly introduce them, because they are all magic. This is Diane DeOnker.
You got to be by the mic, Roseanne.
I'm sorry. Diane DeOnker, that's our treasurer, and she's my sidekick throughout the whole cruise. Audrey and Robert Calhoun, they're on the members. Andrea Strutz, she's our incoming president. Scott Holmes is our current president. Walter Hooper is our vice president. Carl Papa is a longtime member of Kiwanis, has been in every seat and currently holds this secretary position. Oh my God, Ashley is Sharon's niece, and she is our little sidekick and helps us on every little thing that we ask her to. Linda McGee, she's an attorney and part of our Kiwanis. Mike Denowitz, that's my muscle man. Any logistics I need, he does it for us. Sharon Gwazowski is our membership committee chairperson. Joe Conair is a member of Kiwanis and helper of our Harper Cruise. And I'm going to have Scott talk first briefly about our club.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, Council. So Shorewood Kiwanis has been in the neighborhood since 1959. I obviously have not been a founding member at that point. However, our motto is serving the community one child at a time. That is pretty much what our focus is, and the Harper Cruise is our main event, okay? To my knowledge, it is one of the, or if not the largest nonprofit-run car cruises in the state of Michigan. We're very proud that we host it here in St. Clair Shores. With that, we bring in a lot of money and we dump it right back into the community. In the last year, some of the projects I just want to highlight of what we're doing, all kind of centers around children in the community. About a month ago, we brought about over 60 kids to Meyer and bought them school clothes. With the help of Center Hotel, give them backpacks as well. We also initiated a program called Keeping Kids Reading. This was kind of spurred off of the pandemic, where we kind of noticed that literacy rates were starting to rise, the reading scores were down. So we go through in all 4 elementary schools, we're buying every kid in elementary schools in St. Clair Shores a book of their choosing. It's trying to increase literacy and just kind of the love for the reading back into the children of the community. With that, again, our Harper Cruise is our main fundraiser, and we really appreciate the city's support and partnership through that. It takes a village, obviously, everyone coming here, but a partnership with the city also goes a long way as well, so thank you for that. And the date of the cruise, she's going to talk about.
Okay.
And with that, I'm going to let our chairperson, this is all great, I get to talk, but this is the real brain trust behind everything, so I'll let her talk about the cruise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to read this. Well, this is the event of the year. It's the Shorewood Kiwanis Harper Charity Car Cruise. It's the only 100% car cruise where the proceeds help to children in our community. The event is Wednesday, August 28th, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's a free car cruise. It's open to anyone. The public is welcome to pop a squat and enjoy the cars. The cruise is on Harper Avenue from 8.5 Mile Shady Lane up to 12 Mile Road. We have 170 generous sponsors, 28 open parties. Shorewood Kiwanis is very thankful for the businesses and people who support our cruise. Roy O'Brien is our corporate sponsor. They will be set up in the Kroger parking lot at Harper and 9 Mile Road. They will have 3 food vendors, Pop Eats Won the Street, Barbecue Daddy, and Captain Cool. There will be a band. They are a great corporate sponsor, and we enjoy working with Amy O'Brien Kravitz and her team, including Sasha Murphy, who manages the Harper Cruise Facebook site. We will have T-shirt tents and walkers who will be selling T-shirts. They will be $20. They are now available at Village Market, First State Bank on Harper Avenue, Motor City Mission, and Ribbons of Hope. The 3 charity partners that help us sell T-shirts the day of the cruise are Kids on the Go, Motor City Mission, and Ribbons of Hope. The green placards that say Harper Cruise 2024 are available for a donation. The businesses along Harper welcome your business, but please support them all. We could not do this cruise without the members of this Shorewood Club. This takes a year to plan, and all their help is beneficial in producing the cruise. Please come and enjoy it. Thank you.
On behalf of the city, I want to just thank Shorewood Kiwanis, not just for the Harper Cruise, but for the years and decades of supporting the city and providing funds and for kids to the fire department. You've done all kinds of things over these decades, so we truly appreciate all what Shorewood Kiwanis has given back to the city of St. Clair Shores, on top of the fact of, you're right, it's one of our signature events that goes on in St. Clair Shores. It's always at the end of the summertime, but it is a great time. People love this cruise, so we thank you for all the effort that Shorewood Kiwanis and, of course, all the other sponsors that put effort and money into this cruise and make it just a wonderful Wednesday, August 28th, going down Harper Avenue. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Celebrating the Mustang Ford's 60th anniversary.
Right.
That's why you got the Mustang on the
Oh,
front.
very good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And can we take a picture of you guys with your little...
Sure.
Oh.
Sure. Tell us what you want us to do. Okay.
Who's got the camera?
Someone have a camera?
Joel do it. My camera. Joel do it.
All right, you can stay right here in the middle.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
You got it, Joe?
All right. Cool.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Roseanne, we'll see you.
For all your support.
Okay, we will. Thank you. Dr. Papa, how you doing? It's good to see you. Good to see you.
I know, it's a muscle. We need some.
We'll let them clear out. They're going to go.
Someone sent that to me.
So that was 2B. So we're going to go back to 2A, and we have a proclamation for John Agnello. I know Senator Hertel is up here, so Mr. Agnello, John Agnello, come on up here. How are you this evening?
I'm doing good.
You're a good talker for a young man. You really are. Stand right here. Right here, we have Senator Hertel on the other side. And if you don't mind, because we've heard you a little in the news, so you do quite well. John, tell us a little bit about what occurred on July 23rd. Before we kind of read the proclamations, I'd like him to tell a little bit of the story, because obviously this is more than worthy. But if you don't mind, I know we're putting you on the spot a little bit, but I think you'll do okay.
It's fine.
Yes.
I was just fishing at this one spot me and my friends go to. It was just me there, none of my friends. And I was there about 15 minutes, and then randomly to my right, the car goes in the water about 10 feet to the water. It was pretty deep out there. It was pretty deep, far out there. It wasn't going slow. So me and this guy, the neighbor that was outside with his dog, me and him run into the water. It was already like 60% under. She was, the window was open, so we got to her. The door was locked. It couldn't open. We tried opening it. So me and him had to get her out. After we brought her to shore, me and him, she said there was a kid in the back seat. So then me and him ran back to the car. I grabbed a rock or like a boulder, and I threw it at the back window. I checked for a kid. There was no 3-year-old in the back or the front at all. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then she said there's a 23-year-old in there after. It's like, yeah.
I would say today, in a world today where people watch things happen, you didn't watch, you acted. And for a young man, for anyone, it's a courageous to jump in there, but for a young man to have the wherewithal to go in there and know that somebody needed help, right? Maybe multiple people needed help, and you jumped in was just heroic. So you're a credit to your upbringing, your parents who were here, your mother and dad, for having that cognizant to jump in there and take charge of the whole thing. And so that's why we're here to honor you, and I know Senator Hertel too. I'll tell you what, I'll read first, and then Senator Hertel will read the proclamation. So, very worthy. Certificate of recognition to John Agnello. Whereas the Mayor and Council of the City of St. Clair Shores deem it fitting and proper to publicly recognize those individuals who exhibit heroism. Whereas John Agnello displayed quick thinking and courage in helping to rescue an individual from a car that had gone into the waters of Lake St. Clair. At great personal risk and with no concern for his own safety, John and another man immediately entered the water and swam to the sinking vehicle, where they were able to rescue the driver, take her to shore before John returned to the vehicle to search for additional passengers. Whereas John took the time and effort to selflessly act without hesitation, resulting in the driver surviving the crash. Now therefore be resolved that the Mayor and Council of the City of St. Clair Shores, on behalf of all our residents, wish to recognize and commend John Agnello for his heroic actions and concern for the lives of others on July 23rd, 2024. Congratulations. John, well done.
John, I do want to, are we on here?
There you go.
I want to thank you for your service to our community and jumping into action when others might have hesitated. And you didn't think twice. You jumped right in, and somebody is now alive today because of those actions. We have a tribute here from the state of Michigan. I know I asked you this when you came in, and I was told you received a signed St. Brown Lions jersey as well as some Lions tickets. This might not be as cool as that. But you can hang it on your wall in all your future endeavors.
Absolutely.
This is from the state of Michigan. Let it be known that we are proud to recognize John Agnello for his selfless act of bravery to protect the people of St. Clair Shores on July 23rd, 2024. On behalf of everyone who has benefited from the actions of this citizen, We offer John our congratulations and thank yous. When John heard a loud sound while fishing in Lake St. Clair, he recognized a car driving into the lake. Knowing the serious nature of the situation, he and a fellow bystander jumped into action. They both swam out to the car and safely evacuated the driver through the open driver's side window. Once that driver was safe, John had gone back to the vehicle to check for more passengers, smashing the rear windshield and finding no one else in the vehicle. In a time where too many people are focused on serving themselves, John ensured that his community was put first. The strength, morality, and mental alertness of this Grosse Pointe North High School student were put directly to the test in John's neighborhood, and he answered the call with grace, prepared to do what was right. So in special tribute, therefore, this document is signed and dedicated to salute John Agnello for his service to the St. Clair Shores community, and we wish him a future full of happiness, success, and safety. Thank you, John.
Good? John, thanks again. What an example you are. Example to all of us, so.
Mayor, that gets him a parade
I don't know if
spot.
you had hands
Huh?
hold them both.
Gets him a parade spot.
Yeah, we'll talk to Mr. Ravello. We might want to see you in the 2025 parade. Thank you, Senator. Thank you for coming.
With the jersey.
Oh,
with the
yeah,
jersey.
There you go. Good call, Councilman.
Wow.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
2C is the post office can drive update. Oh,
All right.
can you top the last one?
You've given me a tough act to follow.
But you know what? What you do for charity and what you do about feeding and putting food in people's homes is quite an accomplishment. So it is
Thank you,
really,
Mr.
it's a
Mayor.
great accomplishment.
My name's Ron Zaleski. I'm a 26-year letter carrier here in St. Clair Shores. And for the last several years, I have been the food drive coordinator for Letter Carriers Food Drive, which happens the second the second Saturday in May each year. And I'm here tonight to give you an update on how we did this year. In St. Clair Shores, we collected not quite 22,000 pounds of food, which will directly come back to our community. It's not quite as much as we did the year before, but as you'll remember that day, it threatened rain for most of the day. It ended up not being too bad, but generally speaking, when we have a threat of rain, people are a little hesitant to put food out for us to pick up. So we were off a little bit, but all that food will come back into St. Clair Shores to help hungry folks here and in our surrounding neighborhoods. I saw most of council out there, but again, I wanted to thank personally Council Member Rusi and Council Member Karen. They were with us all day long, working just as hard as all the rest of our volunteers and all the rest of the letter carriers. And I'll be honest, we could not do that day without the help that they provide. So thank you both.
Fantastic.
It's never too early to start thinking about it. It is the second Saturday in May every year, which this year coming up in 2025 will be May 10th. We'll look forward to seeing volunteers from the neighborhoods, volunteers from council, and of course, your letter carrier who will be out there collecting food that day. And I want to thank council, the clerk, and Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you for all the work you do, Ron. Appreciate it. See you next year, Lord willing. Item 2D is the Sarisa Annual Report. Tony, come on up. Chief, you're coming up too.
Thanks, Mayor, Council. I just wanted to introduce Tony Lacey, the Director of Sarisa. They've been in operation since 2010, serving our city police and fire departments, East Point, Roseville, and now Fraser. So they're doing a great job there, and he's got some good things to report to you. Thank you.
Yep, and Tony's been coming annually, so we appreciate that with an update. Good evening.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. As Chief Allen said, my name's Tony. I'm the director. If I haven't said it before, Chief Allen's a big part of what we do also. Him and Chief Piper both sit on our authority board of directors. We meet quarterly, and we get provided guidance on how operations should occur. So thank you for your time and time with us. I just want to give you an update, as I did last year. I provided a annual report in your packet, your very large packet, I might add, tonight. So I'm just going to go over a couple bulleted items that we've accomplished in the last year that we're proud of, and just to show you that we're progressing in the right way. We've restructured our leadership a little bit by removing some administrative positions and creating a manager role that provides better focus and dedication on our training and our quality assurance programs. Because of this informal training as well as formal training has really ramped up in this past year, much more than we've ever had. We're also working to increase the number of calls that we have reviewed by quality assurance personnel. And then this allows us to collect data and track trends on our dispatchers and address any concerns that we have, problem areas that we may or may not have. We believe this over time is improving our service delivery quality. And it did not cost anything as far as operational to be able to implement these roles by removing that administrative position. We've updated hiring processes. We've allowed vacancies to be filled at a much quicker rate than before. And I'm proud to say because of it, we currently do not have any vacancies at Sarisa starting next week. We have 2 people starting next week, and they'll take about 4 to 5 months to be trained and then operate independently on their own. So that's an incredible thing. We're one of very few centers in the entire state that can say that. So there's a big knocking on wood there.
For sure.
We're working really hard to remain accredited in our emergency medical dispatch program. And I'm happy to say that we are as of the last year. This accreditation is through the International Academies of Priority Dispatch and signifies that our medical calls processed through our center meet and exceed a set of globally recognized best practices, and that we are 100% committed to superior service with patient care. With help of the local 911 surcharge, we were able to replace some workstations this past year. These are the desks that the dispatchers sit at for 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The furniture that was there was about 15 years old. Many parts were broken, and the manufacturer said they were end of life, and we did not have any parts to replace them. So needless to say, having a clean, new, modern workspace for our dispatchers to sit at really helped the working environment there. Mayor Walby was there not too long ago and got to see some of this stuff. So, looking ahead, Sarisa is very prepared to take on the EZINet transfer. That's getting rid of our legacy copper 911 system in the county of Macomb. We're the last county in the entire state to make that transition. And to give a little brief update of what that is, think of it as an analog update to even far more than what a digital world could be. This will give much more accurate location services when you do call 911 through a wireless device, as well as be able to transform how 911 is called, 911 can or will be called in the future. I want to assure everyone that Sarisa remains committed to improving our service delivery every year through efficiency and a highly trained staff. And again, I want to thank you for having me. Being able to express what we're working on to the communities that we serve is really important to us. I have some contact information. You can find that in the report if you want to stop by and see our center. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Ms. Rusi.
Thank you. First a comment. I tend to be on the receiving end of a lot of complaints about various city services where, I spend a lot of time on the residents groups trying to proactively address the complaints I do see. And I will say, it's a testament to the service you provide. I don't think I've seen one complaint in probably 14 months maybe at this point. So it's a vital service you provide, and it seems like whatever issues there had been, they've been resolved, and you are providing that service in a very professional and competent fashion, dependable fashion to our residents. So thank you for that. I wish you could take on some of the priority issues too, because those are the communication issues I receive now. So thank you for the work you've done over there and getting some of the issues straightened out and getting the the service provided to our residents that we expect and they expect. The question, though, is I know the annual report we received addresses overall call volumes for the entity itself, Ceresa. In terms of SCS-specific call volumes, will we be receiving those?
I can certainly provide individual communities, yes.
Yeah, I would just be curious to see how the calls are coming in, what types of, the same type of volume we have on an entity basis in this report, but maybe broken down by our community versus the other ones.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Vitale?
Yeah, I'm afraid to say I can't start the same way that Ms. Rusi did. I have been told of some issues with calling dispatch, and it largely seems to center around the idea of dispatchers playing lawyer. That being a resident called about vagrants panhandling and was told, oh, the Supreme Court says we can't do anything. So does that result in someone being dispatched, or, do we discourage that resident from making the complaint?
It is our policy to not screen any calls. Any call for service that comes into us is dispatched to an officer is our policy. So if incidents like that are occurring, I'd like to know about them.
Yeah, well, that happened. I did receive that complaint from a resident, and honestly, maybe perhaps some of the de-escalation techniques that we teach police officers, because I myself called for services at a building that was abandoned, that didn't even have a sign on it anymore. It was commercial property, and the dispatcher seemed obsessed with knowing the name of the business. And I said, the business hasn't operated in 15 years. There's no sign on the building. And I went round and round and back and forth for quite a while. So I hope it really just became like, who's the one calling for service here? So I hope you will address that.
Again, if I had an individual complaint that I could review, I could look at that call and see who it needs to be addressed, because it is our policy not to screen. We do use other location-type questions that help verify where you're at. We can ask for cross streets. We don't have to hone in on, what's this building and what did it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of the focus of what did it used to be. Well, it hasn't been that for 10 years. It doesn't matter. Just please, I've got a disorderly person destroying property. Come.
Sure.
So, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
efficiency when you call and call processing times is a metric that we do measure when we do quality assurance. So if we're spending too much time on white item and not getting help to you, that's a detriment to what our service should and can be.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rubello?
If I'm the one picking the phone up and calling 911 dispatch, how does the call go smooth? What advice could you give somebody who's, probably under the gun here a little bit and nervous?
Good question.
How do I get you guys there quicker, get you information? What are some of the steps that makes the call go quicker and easier?
That's a good question. We do a lot of public education when we can in schools to take these sort of questions. And the biggest thing is to know where you are and to give a brief overview of what's happening. And if it's a priority in nature, we'll be sending cars as soon as we know where you are or where the problem is, not necessarily where you are, and the general gist of what's going on there. Questions may still be being asked while the call has been dispatched, but for quick service in a priority run, knowing exactly where you are and what the gist of it's going on. Say if it's a robbery, we'll just want to know that there's a robbery in progress, where it's at. We'll send cars and then come back to you and ask for descriptions, ask for vehicles involved, ask what they look like, is there a weapon involved, things like that. But knowing where you are is first and foremost. I mean, think about it when you're driving on 94 and had to call immediately. Do you know exactly where you are in between mile markers, exit, on-ramps, things like that? These are questions a lot of people don't know when they call, but can help get service to you quicker if you do.
Most calls come from the house or from vehicles?
Every year that seems to trend more and more to a wireless nature. Landlines in a residence or in a business are few and far between nowadays. And service used to come quicker that way because when you call 911 from a landline, your address would populate right onto that screen. And when you call from your cell phone, it doesn't.
Okay.
It's right around 90% that are the types of calls that we get that are wireless. I believe that's in that report. It's under a class of service type report.
When people paint their address on the curb, do you suggest people doing those types of things?
I would certainly think it helps fire and police response, as they're flying up and down a street. If they know the numbers as they're zipping by, they'll know whether or not they need to slow down and get there.
All right, thanks, Mayor.
Visibility helps.
Thank you. And then Mr. Frederick.
Thanks, Mayor.
Grab your mic.
I'm sorry.
Councilman.
On a better note, you had some 2023 employees who were recognized as standouts, Monica Reisman and Ashley Budzinski. I was hoping you could just tell us a little bit about what they did or how that process works and maybe give them a little recognition here.
Yep, Monica is now a supervisor for us. She was recognized by her peers for people that has been a standout employee, somebody that's always seen as positive, a courteous person to callers, just setting a good example and helping out teammates when they need it, just being a good coordinator of activities in the room, when it's busy. And Ashley very much the same way. She's always willing to help, lend a helping hand. She's currently the dispatchers union president and is always a resource if people have questions about, hey, I'm looking to do this, can I be here and do this at the same time? Both of those employees are standouts for us and are since recognized because of that.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor.
Tony, thank you. We appreciate you coming every year and giving us an overview. You do a great job. We appreciate it.
Very much appreciate being here.
All right,
See you
take care.
next year.
Item 3, audience participation. Abby, do we have anyone?
No, we do not.
All right. Item 4 is the Alexander Levon 2024 Canal Dredge. Review and confirm the assessment role, hear objections to the role, and adopt the resolution confirming the special assessment district. 4A is the public hearing regarding the Alexander Levon 2024 Canal Dredge. I will open the public hearing. Anyone like to speak regarding the public hearing, the Alexander Levon dredging project? Yes, sir, come on up, say your name and...
Hello, Terrence Tarantine, 22434 Alexander. I just want to thank the council. It'd be kind of nice to be going in and out without having my shallow alarm go off every time. So it's a man-made canal, needs to be maintained by man. So we do appreciate the city's efforts and the efforts of my resident, my neighbors for getting the special assessment going. So I just wanted to say thank you and appreciate from everybody on the canal. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else before I close the public hearing? Seeing no one else, I will close the public hearing. We will go to 4B, is adopt a resolution confirming the special assessment district for the Alexander Levon 2024 canal dredging. I see that they do have the 50% deposit has been submitted to the city. Abby, we know that I think it was about 68% or 69%, which met the ordinance, more than 2/3 there. So that all looked in order. Other questions by the council? Mr. Rebello.
I have no questions.
All right. Okay, you can make a motion.
I'm going to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
To adopt the resolution confirming the SAD role for the Alexander Levon 2024 canal dredging.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Rebello, supported by Mr. Frederick. Seeing no other questions, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. 6-0 passes. Thank you. All done there, gentlemen. Item 5 is a request to transfer ownership of an escrowed Class C liquor license to Bateau Enterprise 22425 Harper, better known as the Wine Garden. Come on up, Tony.
How you doing?
Great, how are you? You didn't bring the Hulk.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tony Batu, and I am here on behalf of two businesses, the Wine Garden and the Best Cup Secret.
So you're transferring the license.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Erie, did you review? Abby, we're all good here?
Yes.
Questions? Mr. Karen?
Thank you. So basically, you're putting in a tasting room, right?
Yes, sir.
And is it in the back area? So I was actually in your store Saturday.
Okay.
And
there's like a back room that has a separate entrance. Is that basically where you're planning on putting it?
It's all the way at the end, far end of the store. There is a door to it, is a separate building. We used to have a tenant
Okay.
that was there 5 years ago, but it's a totally separate building.
Okay.
It is attached, but it's separate by wall.
Is all entrances still going to be through the store itself into the back, or?
Well, right now, we got awarded from the state of Michigan to actually have a door in between the two.
Okay. All right, good. No, I think that'll be a great addition
Yeah,
to the
thank you.
property there, so good luck.
Looking forward to it.
Ms. Rusi.
Thank you. No objections to the transfer, just a question, I guess, on some of the paperwork we received. The yellow memo has the addresses 22425, but the inspection results say 22325 and also 22435.
So the correct address to the wine garden is 22425, and the address to the new or existing location was 22325. It's only the 4 and the 3 is different.
Okay.
22435.
Okay, 22435 is the new location?
Correct. That was an
And
existing address, by the way.
22425
Is
is
the
the
wine
wine
garden.
garden currently?
Yes, ma'am.
And there's also 22325,
That
which might
doesn't
be a
belong to
typo
me.
in the inspection report. It's on the, this document in your, so, okay.
It was an error on our behalf because of the numbers are so close.
Yeah, it was confusing to read. I was thinking,
Sorry.
I Googled obviously what the wine garden address is, then to see these other ones was a little.
Yeah. So 22425 is the wine garden.
Okay, we
and
just want to make sure
224
everything's
yeah.
correct on the documentation and
Thank you.
consistent, so, okay, cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vitale.
Yeah, just to clarify, we're bringing a license in from Mount Clemens, it appears by the paperwork here.
I
So this isn't one of our
honestly don't know where
licenses.
it's coming from.
Okay.
I bought it from a broker, so I know it's in Macomb County.
Okay, it's not one that we're losing or anything
No,
like that. So
not at all.
that's good to hear, and I've heard a lot about this concept of kind of a back room
Yeah.
before, so that'll be great. Wish you a lot of luck. Thanks for bringing the Hulk to town. Hulk Hogan, not the Hulk. And I'll make a motion to recommend the request from Batu Enterprises for the transfer of ownership, Class C SDM license with Sunday sales permit. Is it necessary I read all the rest? Okay.
Wait a
It's
second.
lengthy, so.
Moved by Mr. Vitale, supported by Mr. Karen to approve the transfer of the liquor license. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Tony, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Thanks,
good
everybody.
evening.
Thank you very much.
6-0. Item 6 is request to transfer ownership of Class C liquor license to M&D Jefferson LLC, 24409 Jefferson, Johnny Blacks. Good evening, how are you?
I'm great. My name's Gina DeGregory. I'm here on behalf of Johnny Black's Lake House, M&D Jefferson LLC.
Okay, Gina, pull that mic up if you don't mind.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Okay. Everything looked good on Abby and Mr. Erie?
Yes.
Questions over here? Mr. Karen?
Thank you. Actually, little history on this site, because I wasn't aware there was a liquor license already at this address, because when it was Shipwreck, it was microbrew license. And I don't know if it was still part of the Copeland Club that had the liquor license that was still there?
Yes.
So did that get transferred to Shipwreck and then on to Dragon's Landing and then?
I
to this
don't know
one?
where it came from before Dragon's Landing.
What, do you know if it was already always associated with this property, though?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so it's probably carryover from the Copeland Club then?
I would agree. I think we've all been in there, and they for sure had a liquor license, the Coping Center, yes.
Okay. All right, that was just the only clarification I wanted, so thank you.
Mr. Frederick?
Move to approve.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Frederick, supported by Ms. Rusi. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, 6-0. Thank you. How's it going over there? Good?
Going good, yeah. There's a little bit of difficulty, I think, with the building department. We're looking to open ASAP, but the owner's working through that with the building department and with inspections, or I don't know, I don't even know that they've gotten that far, but
Okay.
hopefully they get on the right track and looking to open in the next 4 to 6 weeks, hopefully.
Fantastic, we're all excited.
All right, thank you.
It looks great.
Thank you.
Looks great.
All right, have a good night.
You too. Item 7, request for site plan approval for exterior renovations at 23750-23780 Greater Mac. Wassim Asmir of Greater Mac Investment. Yes, sir.
Kevin, as we call him.
My name is Kevin Corcus. I'm on behalf of Wassim. Just here to see if you guys have any questions.
Well, tell us a little bit. I mean, some of the work's already gotten, right?
Yes, I was hoping the architect would be here, but I am the old owner. I sold the store and the building to Wassim, and this was part of the agreement. I was going to help them pay for the renovation. So we're doing facelifting.
Yes.
And in the parking lot, that's right.
Okay. Liz, anything to add?
Yes, Mayor and Council, good evening. As you may remember, I forgot to add this item to the council agenda. This was not the petitioner's fault at all, so we allowed him to get started so that he wouldn't be delayed significantly. Much of the code enforcement issues that were brought up in the plan review are being addressed right now as part of this overall renovation. And what you see up on the screen here, the site plan approval did condition that the cornices, like above the overhead doors, were to be straight across. Other than that, those were the major points.
Okay. Mr. Vitale.
I noticed that it looks like fewer windows, so the new owners will be aware they can only cover a third of the windows?
There's not fewer, yeah.
Okay, I remember more glass on the front of it.
Change that window to the right. The other one is going to be covered.
Yeah, so only 1/3 of each of those window panes would be able to be covered in the future.
1/3 of the remaining, whatever that ends up being, 1/3 of the remaining windows can be covered with signage. Okay. And no LED lighting in the window, that becomes part of signage otherwise?
We haven't put anything.
Okay.
We have a contract. I think we got a license from the city. We're going to get approval before we do anything.
Okay, so I want to get that on the record.
Ms. Rusi.
Thank you. I guess a question for Liz. Reading through the review of the various criteria taken into account by the Plan Commission on recommendation from staff, zoning, adequacy of information, go to 3 site design characteristics. You had mentioned the cornices issue. And is there an ordinance against these proposed decorative cornices, or is it just, because it's odd to see staff recommends eliminating the proposed decorative cornices above the overhead doors on the Prairie Store to create a cleaner design with lower maintenance. It's odd to have a design recommendation that's not tied to an ordinance.
Right, no, there is no ordinance requirement here. It is just my recommendation, the idea being lower maintenance and it be a cleaner line all the way across.
Yeah, because I've just never seen staff get involved with making recommendations on aesthetics like that. That's not part of an ordinance like design material or something. If they want to utilize a design material that we prohibit versus when we allow something like that. But in terms of the natural design, I don't recall us getting involved in that.
Sometimes, but not always, and it's only been it can only be a recommendation from staff and obviously a recommendation
And
from
then the Plan Commission, though, made this a condition.
That's correct. The Planning Commission did. Again, it's their recommendation. The council has the ability to.
Are you cool with the elimination of the cornices?
That would be for you. Yeah.
Do you agree with it?
It's up to the council.
I mean, are you fine with the elimination of them, or are you fine with that design change? It's not council's building.
I'm sorry, like I said, I don't know much about buildings, but I don't even know what the question is, to be honest.
I guess the question is this. You came, the proposed plan for this included this decorative element. Staff recommended against the decorative element, not because the ordinances do not allow the decorative element, but just because, you know, it would be preferred on their aesthetic decision not to have it, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And then Planning Commission heard that and said, yeah, let's make this a condition, get rid of that design element, but there's no ordinance prohibiting you from having that. So my question is, do you want that design element, or are you okay with the elimination of it because it's not part of an ordinance not to have it? I guess. It's just odd to see a condition put in here that's not tied to an ordinance, but rather to someone's design preferences apart from the design preferences of the owner paying for the building. Because I just don't want to add a,
With either way, but
okay, I just don't want to make a condition and have something eliminated that you and the owner wanted in the plan that's not tied to an ordinance prohibiting it.
I think the architect came here 2 times and proposed this, and we went to the planning commission, it was approved. So this is the thing, it's really not that much different when you look at
Okay,
it.
if you're, I just want to make sure you're fine with it, because I don't feel comfortable putting a condition on that you don't want unless I have an ordinance to point to. And I went into the situation. So if you're cool with the elimination of it, that's fine, but I just wanted to double check that.
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes, I'd like to move to approve this, and, you know, if in fact the petitioner wants an option either way, I mean, it's, you know, to us, I don't
That's
care.
not what I'm voting on.
No. All right, well,
It is what's in front of us, so,
yeah,
so that's the
so I
motion.
move to approve.
Move to approve.
Support.
Any other questions? Mr. Rubello?
I just had one. In the back of the building here, a 6-foot concrete brick embossed screen wall is required between the rear parking lot and the adjacent residence.
Yes, we're aware of that, and the planning commission, they gave us 2 years to do it, so.
Okay, that's what I wanted to see if you had any relief like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we're gonna probably do it this year, if not, for sure, next year. We're doing
You're-
the parking lot too.
You're keeping the big doors in front?
What right now is 1 door.
Okay.
So the plan is to make it do 2 doors. And if we can do it, we'd rather have 2 doors, and one will be closed, one will be open, but
Okay.
it just will look prettier, it'll look like eating at the wall.
Maybe one day, okay, that's for something else. That was actually the old firehouse, fire station at St. Clair Shores at one time, that building.
Yes, I bought the building from Mr. Kupsel, so I'm aware of all the
Oh,
history.
Mr. Capsule told you the story?
Yeah.
Used to be in there, yep.
Huh?
Mr. Copsey used to be in there.
Oh, yeah.
The building
He's
is,
the head unit.
well, I think it was 1948, so it needs some renovation.
Sure it does. Alrighty,
Maybe one day a plaque on that building.
Moved by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Ravello. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. 6-0, it passes. Thank you. I mean,
Thank you.
what you've already done looks great. Item 8, request to appoint delegates for the Michigan Municipal League Annual Meeting on September 11th through the 13th, 2024. The current members, is it you, Mr. Ribello? Are you the current delegate?
It's Dave and I here.
Yeah.
And you're the alternate?
Or it might be the other way. I think
Yeah, the
Dave
other
was,
way
Dave
around.
was
Okay.
the,
Oh, Dave's
yes.
the alternate. Okay, thank you.
So,
Okay, well, what is the pleasure?
you still fine with that, Dave?
I'm good.
I'm good, too.
Someone needs to make a
I'd
motion.
make a
I'll make-
motion to,
Mr. Frederick, yes?
I'd make a motion to
Maintain.
make Dave the main guy, and I'll do the alternate.
So Mr. Frederick makes Mr. Ribello the delegate, and Mr. Frederick the alternate and he makes that motion. Is there support for that?
Support.
I was waiting for Dave to
I could've
support it.
I was getting a little worried here, by the way.
No, I would.
Somebody else want to go? Any other?
Go for it.
Any other questions regarding that?
No.
So the motion is made by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Karen, to make Mr. Rubello the delegate and Mr. Frederick the alternate. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, 6-0. Thank you. Thank you for serving. I know that, I know Ron, I know Dave enjoys them and goes to Lansing.
Another meeting.
Yep.
Can't wait.
With that, we will move to, as I said, item 9, we hope to come back here in September. Item 10 is bids, contracts, purchase orders, request to approve the contract for IntelliTime and attendance system upgrade. Good evening, Nick. How are you?
Mayor, council. I am here to receive approval for the IntelliTime systems upgrade. IntelliTime is our city's time and attendance system. The reason for this upgrade is that our current time clocks have been in place since 2005. With that, due to their age, we've experienced a lot of issues with these time clocks. That's on the front end. On the back end, where the IntelliTime database resides is hosted on legacy software, which poses security risks. With this upgrade, we'll be able to replace all of our time clocks with new time clocks and move the IntelliTime database to a stable environment.
And you're asking for $98,263 to do this. Mr. Lent?
And just for budgeting purposes, this was budgeted in last year's current fiscal year. We will be bringing forward a few carryovers at next council meeting's agenda, but we are looking to utilize the carry forward to be able to purchase this from last fiscal year's budget.
Questions? Mr. Rubello?
Okay, what do you expect to get out of this? What's the end result? What's going to happen? What's going to be better?
Yep, so all of our time clocks right now, these are 19 time clocks currently, spread across 11 locations throughout the city. Many of our staff experience issues with these time clocks. So when they come in the morning, they have issues using their fingerprints to punch in. They've got different issues throughout the day where the time clock's not turned on or it's not booting up. So there's a lot of frustration with city staff using very old equipment. That's number one. Number two is, again, the IntelliTime database right now is hosted on very old software, which poses a security risk to the city's IT network environment. So we would be able to eliminate that legacy software and also replace all of our old time clocks with new time clocks, eliminating the frustration of city staff.
Okay, because I had a conversation a little bit earlier with somebody, and I guess sometimes when you're looking for money and to make cuts and things like that, now I know something like this is important. I get it. I get the whole thing, but we can't delay something like this till next year and take $98,000 and put it someplace else because of how it's budgeted.
No, I mean, the council has the authorization to approve or not approve this purchase. As Nick has stated, though, this is becoming, right now, the system that we're currently operating on is no longer being serviced through Teletime. So one of our issues is when we're actually sending them clocks to actually be fixed and repaired, they're no longer going to be able to communicate with each other. So when it comes to coming in and clocking in, we do have to upgrade our service and provider sooner rather than later. The reason that we actually didn't purchase it last year is we were working with them, trying to make sure with their new software, because they're, like I said, they're antiquating what we're currently using. We're looking to go to the cloud-based system for the security, and we're looking to get the new systems for the upgrade. It is desperately needed. We had the money already budgeted in last fiscal year's budget. However, as council, I mean, if there is something that you feel is more pressing, this is a very pressing issue. But I will say it as well, it's $93,000. That's to get everything converted, then we own it. There are still legacy costs that you are going to have your yearly subscription fees, but it isn't the initial one time. And we pay our subscription fees as we are now. Once again, though, that system is becoming antiquated and no longer being serviced on their platform.
Yeah, it's not that I don't think it's important. I get why it's important. I just didn't know if it was as pressing as if we did it next year and used this money someplace else. But I guess that would be.
One thing I will mention is that by November, if one of these time clocks does experience the most minute error and we do have to send it back to IntelliTime for repair, they will not do that anymore. So we'll be down that time clock until we do this upgrade. So that location will no longer have a time clock. That staff will need to go to a different location to clock in. And we do experience it regularly, where we're sending these back and waiting for it to come back again. And that staff temporarily does have to go to a different location. It kind of messes with the organization of things.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Mr. Frederick.
Thanks, Mayor. So this 98,000 that we're talking about, this is kind of, the last one lasted 20 years. Maybe we shouldn't go 20 years next time. So do we have a lifetime of what this one would be, 15, 10 years, something like that?
Yes.
All right, so really we're spreading this out.
Yes.
If you were to think about like 10,000 a year or something like that, okay. I'd move to approve.
Support. Moved by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Karen. Ms. Rusi.
Thank you. A couple of questions on the system procurement agreement itself. Okay, so you go in 1.8 deliverable, and it is defined in accordance with what they call Exhibit G, project plan and delivery schedule. That's under definitions 1.8, defining deliverable. Then you go to 2.1, and again, it references Exhibit G, project plan and delivery schedule. But if you actually look at the Exhibit G attached to the SPA, the System Procurement Agreement, Exhibit G is actually the SaaS rider, software as a service rider, I think is SaaS. But if you then flip to what Exhibit G actually is, not only is it not the project plan delivery schedule as the contract alludes to, it's not even the software as a service agreement, it's a system availability service standard SaaS, not SaaS, it's SaaS. So I think we just need to make sure the agreements and the exhibits are referencing the correct exhibits and the correct exhibits are attached, because that's a little confusing when it calls Exhibit G the project plan delivery schedule, and Exhibit G is actually the SaaS, or maybe the SaaS, SaaS. So I don't know what's going on there. That's a little bit odd.
I will double check that and make sure that that's correct.
Yep, and then if you look at 8.4, once everything happens, then we execute the contract under Exhibit H, which is the annual maintenance and support of this agreement, which is now, if you go there, it's a blank annual support agreement. It says software programs identified in the attached Schedule 1. We don't have an attached Schedule 1 at this point. I assume that will be created upon execution of this. We just need to make sure Schedule 1 is created and executed as part of this after we go through the deliverable portion of the agreement. When we get to this Exhibit H execution, we need to make sure we do have Schedule 1 as part of that, because right now it's not in here. Just wanted to call out too then in the annual support agreement, 5.1, which turns limited warranty into a period of 3 months from the day of shipment of the software to licensee. So the warranty period is just 3 months, so that's less, that's pretty small, 3 months. So just wanted to make sure council's aware of that. Again, that's not the contract we are executing tonight, but the one we are executing tonight calls for the execution of this one after that one is fulfilled. And then just interestingly enough, I thought this was interesting. I did a couple of projects in my day job on technology agreements and software agreements. So this was kind of interesting to go through, and they all have these little quirks to themselves. But 8.5, the governing law under the software license annual support agreement, Exhibit H, that we'd be executing afterwards, says this contract is governed by the laws of California, but the SPA agreement 14.4 laws of Washington. So that's a little bit weird, but it doesn't probably mean much, but it's just, I thought that little quirk was interesting, how it goes from California to Washington. But
I will bring all of this up.
yeah, I
whenever.
mean, these are just standard agreements they execute with every customer, so I would imagine sometimes they cobble them together depending upon what services and deliverables are being promise to and deliver to the customer. We just have to make sure, like I said, the Exhibit G, that's supposed to be the project delivery schedule, being the SAS for SAS agreement, SAAS or SASS. We just need to make sure we know what we're executing. And again, wanted to call out in the annual support agreement, the 3-month warranty, which is kind of small, but just calling that out. And the follow-up question is, what's the annual subscription fee?
That is around $17,000.
Okay, so every year we'd be paying that to maintain
Yes.
the system.
Yeah.
What do we pay now currently, just under?
Around that number.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so the current annual fee is about 17,600. The new software system is actually 26,413, and it's on the PO, the annual support.
Yep, okay, I was just wanting to get that out there too.
They go up because
it's
of
not
the
in the
additional
actual
security and the
contract.
cloud
Okay.
and the additional upgrades of service.
Okay, I'll let other people ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vitale?
Yeah, so I'm not familiar with the current time card system. I assume, is that just a badge reader?
It is not, well, it is, but where we are utilizing the biometric fingerprint for everyone right now.
Currently?
Currently.
Okay. So are we getting new fingerprint readers with this system?
So the time clock itself has the fingerprint reader on it, so we would, yes.
Okay. Well, because I was looking under warranty here and actually trying to find some type of amount of time. And where I'm looking at actual equipment, kind of lost it a little bit here, but it doesn't seem to specify anything in terms of a 90-day warranty or anything like that. So what if we were to order these clocks and we find out the fingerprint readers aren't reliable 3 months down the road?
I will make sure I get that information and that there is some sort of warranty in that case.
Why didn't this go out to bid?
So with our current system as software, when we went to Teletime, 2000 and, do you remember when we originally signed this contract?
2005.
2005. The database, so if we go out to bid, Teletime wouldn't be doing a database. It would be a complete database, conversion with BSNA, conversion with Munis. The cost alone, just to switch software programs, is gonna be north of $250,000, $300,000. Not counting, that's just the data conversion and data transfer. So when
I don't doubt you when you say that, but I don't know that other than.
It's the same thing with our
You're telling me
Munis.
that.
Same thing with our Munis, our BSNA, all of our software programs, our Tyler Inc.
But I mean, you're naming some of the other software programs that we use. This is somehow tied into BSNA?
So
It does, so it does.
So those do interface with each other. The main concern is that we'd have to rebuild all the rules and all the scheduling. So we can't simply migrate it to a different brand or a different product. So if we were to do this upgrade, it'd be a lot more seamless. It'll be a lot more less frustrating for staff as well regarding training, because it is typically the same interface. So we'd probably be spending money on training as well, on top of spending the extra cost of rebuilding the scheduling and the rules that go into the entire database.
Okay. You know, I get that. I understand that, but I have to kind of take you at your word, because all I have is this system procurement agreement. Doesn't really, not a whole lot of background. I didn't even know our current system was fingerprint, because I don't use it. None of us use it. So I thought, you know, maybe there'd be some savings in terms of having to replace badges and things like that, but we're already biometric using fingerprints. So I guess my concern is this $100,000 worth of hardware. How do I know that it's going to work 3 months from now? Because if you read warranty, vendor warranty section 9, basically the whole ball is in their court. If they decide it's bad, they might give us one.
So
this is definitely a very one-side written agreement.
So the hardware is only $43,425. The $98,263
software
includes our annual support, the software, the hosting environment. So the hardware itself is the 15
I
time
understand.
clocks.
Even at
Yeah.
$43,000, it's a pretty significant hardware investment with no warranty, essentially, because I can't find anything spelled out in there that gives a warranty. I'm just concerned if we have.
Yes, I will gather that information and.
Well, by that point, we'll already have voted yes, so I don't, does it matter at that point?
Well, we should see it.
Yeah, well, then maybe this should motion to table. This is something we could come back for in September, right?
So we've got till November, I would say, until we,
And can you, right, I mean, the concern was November, but you can get these in there even if it's the first meeting in September.
I can get these answers, yes.
Even if we've got an email from them saying that they'll cover these things for 5 years or something like that, then we at least have that to hold up in our favor. Something on record.
Well, you have the right to motion to table.
Well, I didn't want to shut everybody else down, so you know what, I'll hold back on that. Maybe someone else
There's no other,
make that motion.
well, there's a current motion on the floor made by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Karen, to approve this at this point in time.
Okay, well, then I'll make a motion to table.
I'll support that.
Moved by Mr. Vitale, supported by Councilwoman Rusi to table. And again, you would be able to get this in on the next meeting, right, which is September 3rd, actually.
We'll make it a priority, yep.
A Tuesday. Mhm. Roll call vote. Abby, please.
Councilmember Vitale.
Aye.
Councilmember Rusi.
Aye.
Councilmember Karen.
Aye.
Councilmember Frederick.
Aye.
Councilmember Rubello.
Aye.
Mayor Walby.
Aye, 6-0, so we'll see you on the 3rd.
Thank you.
Approved to table and question the warranty. Item 10B is to request to award the 3-year contract 2025 through 2027 for the printing and annual city calendar to Printwell and the distribution to C&G Publishing. Bids opened July 9th.
I'll go ahead and take this one since Steve is in the back broadcasting. In your packet today is the information for our newsletter. This did go out to bid. We are recommending to go with the lowest bidder, and we're going to look at splitting this bid and going with Printwell in Taylor, Michigan at a bid price not to exceed $19,982 for the fiscal year 2024-2025 season. And we'll go with C&G Publishing for distribution for a price not to exceed $6,300. The lowest bidders for both of these is our current vendor, and that is, we do have the budget in our current 2024-2025 budget of $29,000 budgeted.
Questions? Mr. Frederick.
Yes, Mayor, I just wanted to mention that this was brought up at the communications meeting, and this was the recommendation of the commission.
Ms. Rusi?
Thank you. I know the recommendation is to tie it to the 19,981 or, 82, but I just wanted to verify that we also wouldn't be wanting any of the things listed under additional costs, not including the price list below in the bid, the Create PDF. I know we had asked for the pricing on the Create the PDF file for the website, some of the other verifications, et cetera. We would not be wanting any of those other services not included in the baseline bid.
That is correct. You can post our own stuff.
That's
and
what I
create our own
figured.
copy.
Okay, I just
Yep.
wanted to double check.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
actually handle that internally with communications.
Thank you.
Mr. Rubello?
Because I work for C&G, I'm going to abstain from the next two here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Carey?
Thank you. So I guess my major concern is not so much in terms of the bid or who it gets awarded to, but just what's the overall communication strategy going forward? I know it's like we had, like the one year we got, or probably a couple of years, we didn't have the calendar, so I think newsletters went out more, brought the calendar back. Now I think the newsletter is going out quarterly.
Quarterly, that's correct.
But then it also has less content than what we've had in the past. I didn't even think in the past, I think we're doing 6 of them a year. It was more than quarterly. It was like almost every other month, right?
Yes.
Pre-COVID timeframe, right?
Well, we were doing 12 that one year when there was no calendar.
Right, no calendar was monthly, right? And then prior to that, it was about 6 times a year. I'm just looking for, what is the written strategy from communications? Of how does the newsletter fit in, the calendar fit in, social media fit in, TV, online media, YouTube, that at some point to have that strategy brought forward. So we can kind of see how all these puzzles pieces fit together with how we get information out to the residents.
So when we switched back last year, when council authorized to go back to the calendar, in order to make the budget, we went to a quarterly newsletter because that was what was budgeted to be able to afford the calendar. So that's when we switched. When we brought back the calendar, that's when we switched to the quarterly newsletters. Currently, right now, the calendar is being, worked on, and then we do the quarterly to try to make sure any changes that happen to the calendar, any updated events, and then we also are pushing social media on all of our local social media pages, but then also working with the commissions and our local committees to make sure they have a concise message and being able to work with them as well.
All right, so back to the higher level questions. I know I've asked it a few times before of when are we going to put together what the overall communication strategy is and how this fits in?
I can work with the communication team as well as the communication commission to create a policies and kind of procedures of what they're working on.
Okay.
But I know currently what they're working on too is trying to figure out things that happen every year. So when yard waste starts up again, when the wastewater treatment.
And that was a very key thing that Mary Jane had done, the previous communication director is that each in the newsletters, there were annual themes. Is that, it's the one coming out in March, it talked about how you do yard waste, right? And there was always the water quality report was another part of it and that. So there was a whole strategy for how she was rolling out information throughout the year. And so I'm just kind of looking to get that back, with, probably more social media heavy, online content heavy, website update heavy type, information going forward. And to just get that together in one package so we're kind of aware and we know what to expect.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Vitale?
First of all, I agree with what John said. It would be good to kind of hear the strategy because there have been a lot of disruptors in this. I mean, actually, COVID being one of them. COVID actually caused us to not have the printer paper available. The glossy paper wasn't available, so that's actually the big reason we got rid of the calendar. But then we also had staff level changes, which went down. And I think one of the concerns is that there wasn't time to solicit advertising. So that's one of the reasons it went back into the city budget. It doesn't have any advertising. I have to say that I kind of, as odd as this sounds, miss the advertising to some extent because there was some good information on local businesses and things there. So I guess what I'm wondering is that since C&G is doing some of the printing on this, distribution. I'm sorry, Printwell's doing the printing, C&G's doing the distribution. If there'd be any possibility for C&G salespeople to take on maybe soliciting some ads and things like that for the calendar, since they're already performing some services for us. And that would, of course, cut the cost of the calendar, but I also think would kind of promote local business as well. Obviously, it's not something I'm trying to get done this year, but maybe future strategy when we have that discussion.
Dave says no.
I'm working on 50% on you guys.
So you won't have to worry about it.
I was going to say too, if it's council's direction, securing sponsorships and getting sponsorships in there or ads in there is something that we can do. From my knowledge coming from the communications was they get taken out because they didn't want to be all ad heavy. They wanted the calendar to be more of a.
I think it was maybe a little ad heavy in the past when it was entirely funded, but there's probably a happy median in there somewhere where maybe there could be, there's always on a calendar some odd blocks or something like that. Maybe we could take up some of that white space area, not necessarily dominate the entire page or something like that, but maybe a hybrid, something between what we had and what we have now.
Okay. Mr. Frederick?
Yeah, a couple things. I think the reason the ads came out is because we asked them, we said, we're going to provide budget to do it, and you don't have to put the ads in. And that was a recommendation of this body. Second thing is on the calendar itself, one of the dilemmas that we have every year when we do the calendar is the amount of information that's in the calendar, the correct information. Each department is supposed to supply, as well as outside entities who have annual events are supposed to supply to the communications department what goes in the calendar. I know that we've double-checked it in the past, and you just can't catch everything. When we did not have the calendar, but we had the 12
printed reports in every month, we did add a calendar page to the back, which allowed us to update the calendar and have more accurate information. So I do want to pass along that the Communications Commission, from a strategy point of view, thought that that was a better strategy. That's not what we asked them to do, but they, as a group, said, you know what, we think that, from a communications point of view, that's a better strategy. So if we want them to prepare a complete communication strategy, I guess we should be prepared that it may not look exactly as what we are approving here tonight.
But even if we approve this, we can always, we don't have to continue to go with it, right?
Well, once we give them a 3-year contract that we're going to.
No, we can get out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we just don't give it to them, right, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. My point is that.
I understand.
That if we want them to put together a strategy, it may not be exactly what we're approving.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Rusi?
Could we award just, instead of a 3-year, just a 1 year?
I think we go with the 3-year because I believe we can get out even if we decide and we make this change, and if maybe we don't, maybe this is the way we'll go. And we'll have this already in place, but even if we change, right, Dustin, there's no issue of getting out, but.
Okay. It just seems a little bit strange to approve a 3-year contract when allowed, even maybe this year is a little bit up in the air in terms of what we want to do as a city, given that we haven't had these discussions yet.
Well, the printing is the same for all.
Mr. Vitale?
I would say this, I don't think there's any reason we necessarily even have to get out of a contract. The calendar is going to be 24 pages, so that's what they're basing their pricing on. So just a matter of what we decide to put on those 24 pages. I'm guessing 24 because 12, 12 months in a year.
Of course, unless we change from not doing a calendar.
If we completely went away, but I think if we go to, maybe we change it and have, let's say just that we do some ads or something like that, it's still the same number of pages. It's just what we decide to put, 32?
32.
Okay, so it's 32. No matter what we put on it is kind of irrelevant, so.
I would move to approve this.
Support.
All knowing that we can make changes as we go along.
Yeah.
Moved by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Vitale. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
5-1, no, and that was,
Dave's abstaining, he said.
I'm sorry, 4-1 with 1 abstention. Thank you.
I made all the noise.
And that was awarding the printing to Printwell and the distribution to C&G Publishing. Item C is request to award the 3-year contract for the pre-press printing and distribution of the city newsletter by C&G Publishing.
So, as to continue our conversation, this is for the newsletter. This is a quarterly newsletter. This will be one bid. This is with C&G Publishing. They will be publishing and printing the newsletter and distributing it to the residents. The cost for C&G to do the stuff is a $25,000 in the 2024 budget, and the price is, sorry, I do not see it on here, I do apologize.
Budget impact was 25.
Yeah, that was what was budgeted, so the, $4,337 per print. So for the 4 printings would be, should have the PO in here.
A little over 20,000.
Yeah, $17,348.
Questions? Ms. Rusi?
Thank you. Once again, it's a 3-year contract where we don't know what the entire communication strategy is going to be, and this one ties us into what 4 newsletters, what if we want more newsletters, what if we want fewer newsletters, what if newsletters are a different part of the communication strategy. It just seems again premature to be entering into this type of contract with these numbers in it when we don't know what decisions are going to be made with the department, with the commission, and with us in terms of overall communication strategy, given it has changed over the years and it may not currently reflect what we want to continue with.
Mr. Frederick?
I would just say that pricing strategy is a certain increase each year, depending on how many we want to do. We could add those based on the pricing, at the individual pricing. But again, if we do 4, 6, 12, whatever we work out, we could actually go back to these folks. One of the key things, I think, why it's coming to us now is these people have to secure paper, and that's always a big issue in advance to make sure. I mean, Dave probably knows this, working there, that you have to buy the paper well in advance, and our newsletter generally is an upgraded paper stock. It's printed on the web at the same time that the paper's printed, and then so it's automatically inserted, or it looks like it's inserted, but it's actually in there as part of the web press. So I'm sure that if we needed to rebid this, and they could, if they've purchased at least the paper for 4 already, and if we needed 6 or 12, that paper could be purchased further down the road. So I don't see this as being an issue if we approve this tonight.
An issue. It's just a pun, an issue. We're talking about newspapers.
There you go.
I don't know. I just thought that was funny. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it'll be several issues.
Mr. Rubello?
Not an issue, but is an
comment?
issue.
This one? You can abstain?
I have to abstain.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to clarify that. Mr. Vitale?
I was only going to say, I suggested maybe some calendar tweaks and would like to see the strategy, but I think working within the framework of the quarterly, I don't think we're going to blow up the newsletter, so I'm okay with this.
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Frederick.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Vitale to award the 3-year contract for pre-press printing and distribution to C&G newspaper. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No, that was like 1 to 1. I heard 1 aye.
I know, but since they didn't vote, that's counted as an aye. So 4 to 1 with 1 abstention, it passes. Thank you, and she might be a little louder, maybe on ayes would be helpful. Item 10D is request approval of the purchase of 3 new vehicles for the Narcotics Bureau. Chief Allen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to request the purchase of 3 new vehicles for our Narcotics Bureau. These will be purchased through the My Deal state pricing program, which gives us the best pricing. It's already been a competitive pricing that goes through the program. We're looking to buy 1 Ford Explorer, a Blazer, and a Terrain. These will replace, so 3 of the older vehicles in the Narcotics Bureau will basically drop down to the Detective Bureau. Then those vehicles, the oldest vehicles will be replaced, and then they go to other bureaus in the department or other departments in the city. And if they're not needed by anyone else in the city, then they're auctioned off. The total amount is $103,707, and it will come from the drug forfeiture funds.
And so the vehicles that are going to be replaced are that 2010 and 2011, 2014, that's 95,000, 90,000, one with 156,000 miles on it.
That's right.
Got a lot of use out of them. Mr. Vitale.
I was only going to mention kind of what you said, Chief, that, truly these other vehicles aren't going away. They're just getting demoted down through, and the police are getting the newest versions of each vehicle.
That's right.
Given that, were these vehicles originally purchased with drug forfeiture money? I think that's the way we've always done it. So there's not an issue we've gotten our police use out of them. There's not an issue to hand them off to a non-police agency?
Right.
Once they're at the end of their life?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Karen.
Actually, that was the same question I was going to bring up. I just want to make sure that because we started this with those vehicles I think in 2021. Because before the Narcotics Bureau, basically we had the vehicles that were seized as part of raids.
Right.
And then drug dealers figured out, well, if they lease vehicles, we can't seize a lease vehicle. So they went that route. So, and we started buying them out of drug forfeiture, but then to replace, once you start buying them out of drug forfeiture, you can replace them out of drug forfeiture once it starts there.
That's right.
We can't use that. We've been talking about that for like 12 years. We can't use it to buy regular police cars because we've already bought those
with regular funds. So we can't use drug forfeiture for
Right,
that.
we can't supplant the budgeted items with this forfeiture money.
Right. It's just, once we start buying them out of there, we can continue it, but we can't do it other areas. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Rusi.
Thank you. Who at the department put the memo together?
Sergeant Pickens of the Narcotics Bureau.
Oh, I always enjoy getting the justification, so I appreciate the information and completeness. It's nice to see that there's a plan for where the existing vehicles will be transferred, which ones will be replaced. It's nice to have the mileage, the years of the vehicle. It's nice not to have to ask those questions. So I do appreciate the proactiveness of the Sergeant Pickens, you said?
Yes.
In terms of preparing the packet material for us. It makes for a much easier decision.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Support. Moved by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Karen. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. That was good, 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you much.
Item 10E is request to approve the purchase agreement for the land sale of Jefferson property. Mr. Lent.
Over the past few years, the city has attempted to sell certain real estate located near Loch St. Clair Drive and Jefferson intersection. After a previously approved purchase agreement fell through, the city's council directed staff to relist the property. On June 20th, I forwarded an email with a letter of intent to purchase for $750,000. Since that time, we have negotiated the price of $850,000 that you will find in the purchase agreement attached. The budget upon closing, the city will receive a one-time $850,000 payment, and they have also included a deposit of earnest money of $50,000 while they do their due diligence. And the agreement has been reviewed by legal counsel. Legal counsel and their legal have been in constant conversation, and that is the offer to purchase in your packet today.
Comments, Mr. Erie?
Yes, this offer to purchase is the refined offer to purchase. It has a number of different provisions that are somewhat different than the original offer. I know there is some concern with respect to the amount of time that the purchaser may have to actually close so that the city gets the consideration. If you recall, the previous agreement had a 90-day due diligence period, which had a number of extensions connected to it. This one is a 60-day due diligence period. There is one 30-day extension if it is requested. The actual language that may be of concern indicates that the offer is contingent upon the buyer receiving all governmental approvals and permits for its intended use. The temptation and likely desire of council is to have a hard deadline that we have a closing. My concern is that there are some requests that may be beyond the purchaser's ability to control. And what I am going to recommend, if council approves, is that we add a provision to this that indicates that the purchaser must apply for all approvals required for its intended use, whether they be local, such as planning, ZBA, whether they be state, whether they be environmental, EGLE, any permits required. And then we will look at it as time goes on. Hopefully they won't need an extension if they get the approvals that they want. I am concerned that if we put a hard date on it, a hard time, that may not be something that's agreeable to the purchaser.
Questions, Mr. Vitale?
I'm scanning through here, and I read it over the weekend, and I'm trying to find something that essentially says what they're going to build.
That's not in the,
But are they looking at this plan that was approved? Is this largely going to be the same?
They have reached out to the previous Vitale firm.
Stuckey Vitale.
Sorry. Yeah, they've reached out to the Stuckey Vitale firm and have looked to, and I'm not sure if they've officially came up with an agreement to purchase those plans, but they are working with Stuckey Vitale and they have already hired him.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously it's not likely that they're going to buy this land and put one single-family home on it, but, I mean, do we have some leverage here that we sell them this land, that they're going to build kind of what we envisioned in terms of bringing population there? And
Not in this agreement, no. Not in this offer, not in this agreement.
Not in the agreement, but as legal had mentioned, they do have to go back in front of planning and zoning. So whatever they decide to build would have to get approval from planning and zoning, and obviously through ourselves for the site plan approval.
And I think it's.
And if we say no, they don't buy. If we say yes,
I'm not overly concerned that they're going to, try to build something too large for the site. I just also want to see the site fully developed to its maximum taxable value for the city. So that's my concern. Go, Mr. Ayer.
I think it's important to note that this offer does not require them to build anything on the property. This offer, if they purchase it after their due diligence period is over, they could keep it as vacant land if they wished.
Is everybody okay with that? Because what if it sits fallow for 5 years and we don't really maximize our taxable value on this? Didn't we have something like that in prior purchase agreements?
There was an intent to have them put forth within a certain period of time a development agreement or a proposal. This does not have that.
I mean, I don't want to turn it down because we get our purchase price for the land, but I'm trying to think, years into the future here, the taxable value of this land, what it's going to contribute to the city budget.
Let me just say this. I think that is their goal. I think that is the plan, but there is nothing in this particular offer to purchase that puts a hard deadline on their obligation to do so.
And it would have been nice to have something.
I believe they do have a representative from their
Construction
company. Yep, here.
Okay.
I mean, if they're willing to that they're guaranteed to put something in here, then we could.
Maybe for the record, that would at least give me some comfort something's going here.
Hello, Council. I'm Riley Sheena. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. Yeah.
So our goal is to stick with the original plan that was proposed by Stuckey and Vitale originally, to go with that idea. And the goal of this is to have that extension to do our due diligence, is to see if FEMA will give us approval, see how long they're going to delay us, because for other projects, they're delaying other people 3 years. So again, we don't want to buy property that they say you have to wait this many years before you can even develop it. So our goal is actually to do due diligence to see when's the fastest, most feasible route. And the due diligence is once we figure out all of our information, within those 90 days, if we're able to back out and the property goes back to you guys.
Okay, so I totally get that and I totally understand your reasoning. I just basically wanted something on the record that said it's your intent to build the project that we had already seen.
Yes.
If that's good, then I'm good with this.
Mr. Karen.
Thank you. I guess I'm a little frustrated in the city attorney's explanation of the contract, he's already recommending changes to the contract that was just presented to us.
Well, let me just respond. This was a concern that I understood this afternoon that may arise, and as a consequence of my understanding that is a concern, I am certainly willing to go back to the attorney for the purchaser, but I cannot say that it's something that the purchaser is going to agree to.
I'm struggling with asking to approve a contract when we don't know final wording. And then also in terms of Part 3, inspections, conditions precedent, the buyer's obligation to consummate this transaction shall be contingent on the buyer receiving all governmental approvals and permits for its intended use. So that is not anywhere within a 60-day window. We all know with, 2 projects going on in Jefferson with Eagle, those permits are well over 6 months to just get those. You are in a floodplain. We know that all changed in 2021, so that's your FEMA concern, right? Because that changed, so none of that happens within 60 days. So with the word permit in there, and with government approvals beyond just what we would approve, it's just not our site plan, it's just not our zoning. It's state and then also federal approval. So I don't see where 60 days comes into this at all.
Well, we have two choices. We can either recognize the practicality of what is, you just indicated, and put a very, very long due diligence period on that, acknowledging that that could take place or not. We have to keep in mind that this is an offer to the city. It's not necessarily a negotiated agreement. It's the purchaser's offer saying this is what we will do. We recognize that what they want to accomplish in this offer very well may take longer than 60 or 90 days. It's our decision to accept their offer or not.
So during the conversations in the sit-down meeting with the buyers, they had indicated that the process that they were looking for the permits was they wanted to make sure that the Vitality project that Stuckey Vitality project that had came in front of us would be approved again. I can't give authorization for what the planning and or council would choose. I said this has been approved once. There's a good likelihood that if they kept with the same plan, there's a good chance that it would be approved again. They understand, though, when they did the negotiating, that's why they went with the $850,000 price, was due to the fact of they know they have approximately $300,000 in their estimate in their construction to get the property able to be utilized as a condominiums with the floodplain issue. That's why the price of $850 was actually negotiated. So they do understand that the Eagle requirement. From my understanding, and I don't want to speak for them, and maybe the petitioner here would be able to, is permits plans was making sure that the city is okay with the condominiums that was already presented. And then once they got that, they would then purchase it as they're working through the Eagle procedure. Because they understand the Eagle is not going to be quick. However, if they're also researching right now that if Eagle is telling them it is 3 years, they're going to most likely be able to back out. Because as the petitioner said, 3 years is a little bit lengthy.
So on that point, have you started that question and answer process with both
With FEMA?
Eagle and FEMA?
No, we were waiting to see, once we get maybe approval with you guys, to then move on with them. Because if you guys decline us, we don't want to go waste our time with them.
Have you done that process before?
We've worked with Eagle, not with FEMA.
Okay. Do you have some consultant that has?
We've worked with the architecture firm, Stuckey and
Vitale?
They said there should be no issues and that they should be able to handle it. The only issues is if you're trying to change something with the property and the route we're going with, we're not changing anything, so it shouldn't take a long process.
Okay. So, and officially you have Stuckey Vitale as the architect?
Yes.
For the project in order to get their plans?
Yes.
Okay. All right, because that was one of the other concerns in here was that in the seller deliverables, we had a full set of architectural and civil construction plans and specifications, including as-built plans. Well, those aren't our plans, right? They're Stuckey Vitale plans, right?
Right.
You never paid.
That's correct.
It's not our intellectual property or anything like that. So I think just that line itself ought to be taken out because we don't own them. But I guess I'm just concerned on what is the final language going to be that encompasses all the extra time that's going to be needed for these other governments.
Do we even need a
If we have
timeline?
a 60 or a 90 day or 120.
It's not going to be either of those if we're talking about Eagle or FEMA. So.
But they're doing due diligence to find out what the timeframe is going to be.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
But it's the buyers have to go through that process. We all know, neither of those agencies is going to be 60 or 90 days. So it doesn't really matter, we have 60 or 90 days in this contract. It's really worded based on and laid out of what does government approvals and permits mean? Right? And then Bob, I think you alluded to that, but we don't know what that language is because that was just added at the table.
Can we add city government approval? And they'll be on themselves to be able to get Eagle. At that end of the 60 days, they need an additional 30. They're going to know where they are with Eagle, at least in the beginning phases of what their consultant is telling them. They either have that point, they have the choice to purchase the price and continue along with the Eagle, and we at that point have sold.
If it's limited to city approvals, but not permits, because that's our building permits, right?
Because we have to wait, right. Yep.
If it's limited to our approvals, us, planning, zoning, I think that's better.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
The issue with that is, we can put that in there, but if the purchaser is not sure at a given point, and if they have our approvals for planning, zoning, whatever, if the purchaser is not sure that they're going to be able to proceed with the project, then it is likely they're going to, even if they have city approvals, it's likely they're going to pull out.
But they have to make that determination within the 60 or 90 days, or is basically what you're saying, right?
That's really all it says.
Yep.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Mr. Vitale?
Would it alleviate any issues to have the contract say that the applications must be made within that 90-day timeframe?
Well, given the concerns that were raised to me this afternoon, that's why I indicated I don't think I have a problem, and I think that their attorney would agree with that they must make application for all government approvals within a certain number of days or business
Yeah, because
business
that's
days.
something that they control. As long as they've made their application, okay, they've done what they can do. We know the state's going to hold up forever.
Right. So, I mean, we can keep it at the 60 exactly the way it is, and if they are not inclined to proceed at that point, then at least we know that the property, they either essentially fish or cut bait at that point, and if they choose not to go forward, then we have the property back and we can put it back on the market.
At the outset, 90 days, if.
So
What was that?
I would think we need to table this, don't you think? We need to table this and get this clarified here before it comes back. I know and tabling stops debate, but Mr. Rubello has his pencil up.
I just, a couple of questions, just listening through. You guys want to buy the property, correct?
We want to buy the property, but want to first do our due diligence to see if we want to go ahead with the purchases after the 60 days with the 30-day extension if needed.
Okay. I guess at this point, I don't know if anyone else has anything else to say.
Mr. Frederick does.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Frederick.
Thanks, Mayor. So, did we already get the $50,000 check?
Not yet.
So we
have, yep.
Oh, we have,
They dropped it
because
off
the
in
agreement
office.
says it's paid after.
All right,
They
so
just
we
dropped it off.
So that's a pretty serious indication that they want the property. 60 to 90 days to do their due diligence to find out how long it's going to take with the non-city government entities, which is really the point that we're talking about here. I would say let's get them started on that. Why wait another month or even 2 or 3 weeks to? I mean, we've been wanting to sell this property for how long? A long time, right?
A long time.
And this includes the lots that, the second lot, right? It's all been made one address, is that correct? So.
It's still two, but, yeah.
So I guess, for me, I would rather get this started. We've got the 50. Let them get started with their due diligence so they can figure out if in fact they want to continue with the Stuckey Vitale project. And otherwise, I'm not sure what we're going to find out in, I mean, what else needs to be added to the contract that would change any of that?
Well, I think there's some clarification here in the contract that we need to clean up here before I think we approve it, but.
Yeah, speak.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that there really is, because if we're saying that we're going to put a relatively short lease on closing on this and making decisions, 60 days, 90 days, or if we choose to extend it by mutual agreement, we can, then it is in the purchaser's best interest to move as quickly as possible to start the process to get the approvals that they need if indeed they wish to purchase this property. And my comment at the beginning about, adding a provision that says that they must apply for government approvals within 5 to 7 days, 10 days, whatever, it's really not necessary. If our goal is to say, make a decision within 60 days or 90 days,
it's the same thing.
Then that's what their obligation will be.
Yeah.
Dustin?
I do still think that we should add the provision in there that it's city
Yes.
government, not the
FEMA.
FEMA and all of that. That's on them. And part of the negotiation was as well, they understand that there's an issue with FEMA and the floodplain. That's why it's brought to this point. So at that point, they were agreeable to the 60 days with the 190-day extension. They were accessible, 30-day extension. They were accessible as soon as this went. They were planning on trying to get on the planning and the zoning board just so they can go ahead and start the whole process. They're going to be fast tracking this. We're going to have it right back in front of us. If at 90 days they're not done, either they make the decision to buy or not buy. At that 90 days, they could also come back and say, hey, I want to ask for an additional extension. We don't have to provide it. We can put it right back on the market. But it does give us that flexibility to at least get the process started now to where they can start filling out all of the proper procedures and paperwork moving forward.
All right. Mr. Frederick, anything else? There's a couple pencils up.
I just wanted to ask, have we had any other offers for this property since we listed it?
We've worked with 2 other developers that both fell through.
Mr. Vitale?
Well, one concern I have about not getting them started as soon as possible is that I know sometimes government agencies won't even talk to you unless you've got some kind of purchase agreement.
Right.
So, he doesn't have anything. He has nothing to go to them with. And they say, well, we don't deal in the theoretical. Do you own the land? So that's one reason I wouldn't want to hold it up.
You what?
That's one reason I wouldn't want to hold it up, but
Okay.
perhaps make the amendment to city, that's understandable. Perhaps, we need to change that to application and not approval. But I think those are fairly minor tweaks.
They are.
So that's how I feel.
Mr. Karen?
Well, again, we're back to changing something at the table.
Right.
And being asked to vote on something.
Right.
For something that could come back in 2 weeks. And I would think, protect your rights, you'd want your own attorney to be looking at it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're prepared to agree to what we're talking about up here on your own. I don't think it's really fair to the buyer to do that up here. And that, so I think 2 weeks is fair. I think there's interest to sell, there's interest to work with this developer. But, to have verbiage in here saying receiving all government approvals and permits is not limited to just city, that's all. And like I said, we've got multiple governments involved.
Ms. Rusi?
I completely agree with Councilman Karen that he should be allowed to consult with his attorney on the additional language and see if they agree to the changes too, and be advised on that. I think if we just get his agreement up here when we know they have an attorney who has been advising them, I think that could be a little bit problematic.
Mr. Frederick?
Could we make the changes subject to his attorney's approval? Either way, if he doesn't approve, it comes back in 2 weeks. If he does approve, then they can get started right away.
That's a good idea.
Well, from a practical viewpoint, that's how it would work anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So let's make those 2 changes and get this approved, let them get started. The sooner you get started, the sooner we get paid.
I agree.
And the sooner they could start paying taxes on just the land. If they decide to do it and it's not 3 years out, maybe it's a year and a half, they're going to be paying 2 sets of annual taxes on this land that they would now own. So, to me, it's all about the land, the taxes, the payment, so.
Mr. Rubello?
I just wanted to, I was sort of going down a road, and I got sort of switched out here, but you want to buy it, you've given us $50,000,
Yes.
okay? And the time frame is what? Counselor?
The effective date that the 60 days begins to run from is the date at which the city gives the purchaser certain documentation that he has asked for, which typically would occur within a few days.
Okay, and if he doesn't want to buy it, he can bail out. How long does it take him to bail out?
60 days.
60 days.
60 days. If you don't like, if something happens or you don't like the situation, you're out. But we have his $50,000 right now.
We give it back if he bails, but.
Yes. We
Okay.
have the check. We have the check in hand. It'll be deposited if it's accepted.
That's all.
Ms. Rusi.
Thank you. Just, I guess, 2 points. One about the 50,000 that is being cited. Just want to make sure everyone understands. I know it was mentioned down there that in the event the buyer is not satisfied, in its sole discretion with the inspection, due diligence for any reason it deems necessary, and may terminate this agreement, and deposit shall be returned to the buyer without the approval or consent of seller by title company. So it's not they give us the money, it's just a deposit that goes back to, you know what I mean? So that's just to clarify the 50 grand. It's not just them giving it to us and that's it. It's a deposit that is returned, just like was stated. And on that, the paragraph next to it, there is a little thing, a little typo that needs correction. Bob, seller agrees to cooperate with buyer in all respects relating to any applications for zoning approval. Right now it says of other permit approvals. It should be or other permit approvals. The of to or in the last paragraph in section 3.
So if we,
Mr. Rubello?
so if we vote yes,
There's nothing to vote yes on at this moment.
no, I know. If we decide to go ahead with it, how does the city lose?
I don't think the city loses. I think the issue here is what is in front of us, and there's wording changes, and, you know, a few items before, we just didn't approve $43,000 from an Intel machine because we weren't sure about the warranty. So it sits in here now that we got $850,000, and, you know, I guess it's about the wording, and that we're making the wording as we sit here, and it's about 2 weeks.
Okay.
I think that's what it's about. Mr. Vitale?
I humbly suggest that we're looking at 2 minor wording changes that his attorney is going to get a crack at anyways.
Well, what are
So-
those, Mr. Vitale, since you cited?
City. in
City
front of the
where?
word-
Where?
City inserted in front of the word permits and approvals.
City government approvals.
City government approvals.
And permits.
Okay. And then the other change was going to be.
You're going to take out the word
that
permits.
we can take out the word permits, and that we're going to change to application. So, application.
Where application? Where was that at?
You want me to comb through the whole contract
No,
right now?
it goes.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you know, you're asking me to approve something, I guess
Well,
so.
I would ask the city attorney. Everywhere we have the word, everywhere we have verbiage that indicates they have to have their permits and permits approved would be changed to application.
I think that
Submitted.
I think that what we were talking about was adding a provision that required the purchaser to make application for the government approvals that we're talking about within a certain limited period of time.
How much time?
I would suggest 7 business days.
I mean, that's a fairly minor change, and his attorney gets a crack at it. If his attorney doesn't like it, they cannot sign it. Otherwise, we're just wasting 2 weeks of his time.
Anyone else? Mr. Karen?
Dustin, when did you first send us an email with this interested party?
June
2 months ago?
Approximately, yep.
Okay. So I'm okay with waiting a couple of weeks to make sure we got it right, especially on a contract that we've had issues with in the past in this property to where probably feel buyers have utilized loopholes and extensions and dragged it out. I'd rather have it to be precise.
I had the same feeling. Mr. Lentz?
I was just going to say, we'll make sure then, if that is the route that council so chooses, whatever the vote may be, immediately you need to have your attorney reach out to our attorney. And the buyers want to come in so we can get the language done and nailed down so we don't have an issue. And council, I will, if that's the route we choose, I will send it out immediately. And if there is any of these revisions, if we could get that before we meet again, so we're not tabling again, because the language, because this isn't just going to be our choice. It's going to be our choice and their attorney's choice too. So we have to make sure the language is agreeable between both parties. And I would like to be able to say, hey, when I send that out immediately, we can kind of review it, give any feedback, input. So at the next council, we're not waiting again 2 more weeks.
So I'll make a motion to table.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Karen, supported by Councilwoman Rusi to table. Abby, roll call vote on that one regarding this issue, which is the purchase and real estate agreement for the Jefferson property.
Councilmember Karen?
Aye.
Councilmember Frederick? Or, sorry, Councilmember Rusi?
Aye.
Apologies. Councilmember Frederick?
No.
Councilmember Rubello?
Aye.
Councilmember Vitale?
No.
Mayor Walby?
Aye. So work with them and bring it back to us in 2 weeks on September the 3rd.
You got it. What do you say, September 3rd?
That's when it'll be on the next agenda,
next
September
council
3rd.
meeting.
But your attorney needs to get with Mr. Erie tomorrow.
I already have a call into him today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11, consent agenda.
I like to pull J, K, L, and M.
Hold on.
J, K, L, M.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the rest.
Support. Moved by Mr. Karen, supported by Mr. Frederick to approve everything but J, K, L, M. Mr. Rebello raised his hand.
I wanted to pull C, L, and G.
C and G. Okay, L has already been
Yeah,
requested,
L's
yes.
pulled,
All right, is that okay with the petitioner?
Yes.
The motion maker, Mr. Karen, supported by Mr. Frederick. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. So do them alphabetically. So item C is progress payments, Mr. Rebello.
PK Contracting,
Yes?
I was just wondering how they go out to bid on that particular.
What's the question?
How they got to go out to bid on that particular, hold on 1 second there.
You're talking about the pavement marking program, right?
Yeah, PK.
PK.
Yeah, Brian, a while back I had asked about this, striping,
Yes.
okay? Because I was interested in some of the areas on the crosswalks being striped different, okay? Like, I don't know, I'll try to describe it as,
Cross hatching?
yeah, like that type of thing, or something that you would see, you know, the Beatles' famous picture, Abbey Road, or some type of thing like that.
Right.
And I was actually aiming to maybe, you know, thinking of it when I brought it up before, about maybe striping the social district a little bit different, or the nautical mile a little bit different. Do we get any type of bids on that type of thing, on that look?
We can on our next, I mean, I can get pricing right now. So we have an idea of what it would cost. We'd have to like mill probably the old crosswalk markings off and then put new ones down, and maybe we can get a cost estimate of what, you know, that would cost. But we could also include it in like a future project.
How long will it be? Is it another year before this comes up again?
I think this is the third and I believe final year of the contract,
Okay.
I believe.
I don't know if anyone else, you know, has a feeling for that type of stuff, but I always think it looks a little different, looks a little nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I wish we would have got it in for this one, but, okay.
So
All right,
we'll do
thank
some
you.
work on that.
So,
Yep.
will you make the motion to approve progress, the 11C, please.
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve 11C.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, 6-0. Item G, request to approve the CDBG homeowner rehab project. Mr.
J.
Oh, this was Dave, was G.
Oh,
No, it was
J?
G.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted
He
to.
said G, so.
G,
Yep.
oh, okay.
Yep. Jay will be you next.
Okay. Liz, how did we go about getting these folks to bid on it?
We do, so each year, we essentially solicit as many contractors as we can and sort of say, like, these are our parameters for the rehab program. Then whenever we put something out to bid for a sealed bid process, we're putting it up on BidNet. Kenny's also like emailing them as well, sort of saying like, hey, we've got this out to bid. And then that's how we end up getting our
So
contractors.
did these folks come off of BidNet? Is that what these folks?
Most of the time, they are contractors that know the federal regulations, and they've been longstanding contractors with us that can satisfy all of our federal regulations, so they're not, they weren't just found on BidNet. They are contractors we've been working with for a number of years who end up being the ones who know how to do the work properly.
And how does one go about getting on your list?
Just contact Kenny or me. But I will warn you, it's a lot of paperwork.
Okay.
But they can do it.
They can do it, absolutely, absolutely, and we will hold their hands all the way through to get, to get you registered as a contractor properly. But it's just, I warn people that it really, sometimes the paperwork isn't worth the bid.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve 11G.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Thank you. 11G's passed. 11J, Ms. Rusi.
J, okay, this is code enforcement
Yes.
inspection services. One issue and a question on this one. Right now, we have on the yellow memo 3 times, including the recommended motion, the amount of $131,200. And on the PO, it's $131,250. Which one's correct?
The amount budgeted for this line item was $131,250.
$131,250. Okay, and this is coming out of account 101-732-810-055.
Correct.
I looked at the budget and we have $300,000 according to the online budget for the council voted. What else would come out of that account then besides this?
So this contract started in January, so the first 6 months.
So it's a half?
Yes.
Okay, so this is, represents 6 months?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so it's 131,250, that needs to be corrected in the recommended motion. When we pass this, I will make that motion then.
Support.
Moved by Ms. Rusi, supported by Mr. Frederick, to approve 11J. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. 11K.
Okay, 11K is the code enforcement cleanup contractor. It says, yellow memo again, the total amount budget is 30,000. 30K under budget line item 101-732-810-025. Then budget impact, it says the last 3 numbers 020. Is it 025 or 020?
The budget line item, is 025.
Okay, so budget impact one, that's the wrong one. And I looked at the budget that's online again, and while the manager recommended was 30 grand, council voted says nothing, which I assume is a mistake, because I would assume we didn't take that, but I was looking at the 101-732-810025 account, and the budget online says council voted nothing.
That is correct.
So
This was the account that we moved during the budget session.
So it was moved?
Yeah,
So-
to sanitation.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
online budget is, you have to find this account and the sanitation. Okay.
Yep.
And I will move to approve with that.
Support. Moved by Ms. Rusi, supported by Mr. Karen, to pass 11G. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, 6-0. 11L.
Okay, 11L is just a yellow memo correction. Council approved the contract in July 2021 that we'd be basing this purchase order on. Actually, we had approved the contract in April 2021. We issued the PO that first year in July 2021. The contract was effective as of July 21, but we approved it in April 21. So just for historical purposes, I like to look back on these things sometimes. So it's like, wait, we didn't approve that. Why would we approve that in July 21 if we're issuing the PO? And because we have the PO minutes in here, but it's actually, we approved the contract itself in April 21. Heads up.
Holy cow. Mr. Vitale.
I was actually going to pull this one myself for different reasons.
Really? So was
We've got in here that this is a contract with the city of Roseville, as well as inspection of non-owner occupied properties. A long time ago, I thought it was our understanding up here that we were going to have that rental inspector in-house. Mr. Rebello shaking his head yes, and it seems to be that just keeps rolling on every year that we're just contracting this to City of Roseville. And you know, I've heard things that are all over the place in terms of our rental inspection program. I've seen homes that I know that are rentals, the driveways are absolutely blown up, and I know it didn't happen in the last 3 years. And I've heard cases where we've brought homes up for inspection, and there's minor issues, and we've required a complete tear out of flat work. So it seems like it's all over the place. I don't know if these things are true. I don't know if they're not true. But the one thing I do know is that a long time ago, we were supposed to be bringing this back in-house. And here we are going to roll another year here with it being done by Roseville. Am I the only one that has that memory, or do other people remember it?
No, I kind of remember the rental was talked about being pulled back in. I mean, it was for a number of years.
We had it for a long time, and then we lost that person.
We did.
And then in a pinch, we gave it to Roseville.
Yes.
But it just kind of continued that way, and this is something I thought we wanted more control over ourselves.
Well, if the body wants that, you can make that motion here with you to start moving this forward and try to
Would you have a deadline to approve this, or it doesn't matter if it
well,
gets tacked onto the study session, or?
No,
you know?
No, we're tacking a lot on there already.
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Lent?
I was going to say, if it's the body's recommendation, I can immediately start looking at other options. I mean, even if we were to say, hey, we're going to find somebody, the hiring process, the getting somebody onboarded, the training, I mean, very likely we're going to be using the majority of this contract before we actually have somebody self-trained and involved and on board. But as a budget process, I mean, whatever council wants us to look at that we're contracting out to potentially bring in-house, it's something we can look at.
For sure, and rental. I think Roseville would work with us too.
I believe they would. I would also note that this contract that was approved goes through 25, 26.
Right.
So we are in the midst of a 3 or 4 year contract now with the city of Roseville. So I believe that the building official from Roseville would work with us on this position, but.
Well, this contract includes trade inspections as well.
It does, it includes both.
Yeah, not necessarily looking to get rid of Roseville as plumbing inspector or electrical inspector. So, and even the working with thing is just going to be, we're going to send them some amount of work, and they're going to charge us for some amount of work per inspection, I assume, is what we pay for.
Correct.
So if they're just not getting as many rental inspections, they're just not going to give us as big a bill. So we're probably okay with approving this. But I do think we should have this discussion because it kind of keeps getting forgotten.
All right. Mr. Frederick?
Thanks, Mayor. So completely agree with Chris on the rental inspector, bringing that somehow back in, whether it's a full-time person or if it's a contract, whatever. But I guess I'm more concerned about what I hear on the street about, the folks that we're using from Roseville. Nothing personal against any of them. I'm not sure that we have them enough here to do the job in the amount of time that I would like to see it done. And I think we need we need to talk about this in depth. If we're trying to be all the stuff that we do to make this a great city, and then our businesses are delayed, a couple, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in some cases they've been told. And some of that has to do with reviews of whatever's turned in and then coming back and looking at it. And maybe the whole process needs to be looked at in detail. And I guess just, and Denise, we've had this discussion numerous times, Dustin, you and I too, that maybe it's not a subcontracting it to another city whose people aren't here all the time. Whether, and I'm not even sure when they're here. If it's just Tuesday, is it Tuesday, Thursday? Are they looking at plans on Wednesday? Do they go out in the field? This is the kind of stuff that I think we need to look at very seriously. And, to Chris's point, we could approve this now, and then if we change it, hopefully the building inspector would work with us. But I just want that on record that we need to discuss this and maybe have counsel if we so choose to go in a different direction. So, okay, all right.
If I might, Mr. Mayor, just clarify one thing. They are here every day of the week, Monday through Friday, and they are, the electrical inspector is not doing plan review every day.
Right.
But the building and the plumbing mechanical inspector certainly are. So I just want everyone to know that this is a Monday through Friday gig for them.
Well then, okay, so just to respond to that, my concern would be, do we have enough people doing all this? So if we can't get these folks who come to our city to open a business or to whatever they're doing, right? And us respond in a timely fashion, and, lately we've had a lot of stuff. We've got a lot of growth going on. So
yes.
maybe we need to look at that, and maybe it's a temporary situation where we can hire somebody on a temporary basis to pick up the slack.
I think we already were looking at in the electrical area already.
Yes.
And we actually had talked to them, and I know specifically talked to the city manager over there, met with them regarding improving their technology and getting tablets so we could get them out in the field more so that we could be more effective, and how they could notify someone possibly there within a half hour of coming to their place instead of having these long hours. So we have already talked to them, and I had tried to task them, and I don't know if they'll be able to achieve that, to try to get that for next year and in springtime, to try to get more automated and get these things in the field.
All right, so can we put this on a future study session?
Yes. I would just ask not on the next one.
Not on the next one.
We just added another item on there, and it is a busy one.
Come on, it's Monday. Nobody likes Mondays anyways.
So I'd move to approve that.
Mr. Rebel, can you?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's, for all the reasons we just heard, I know we've had this conversation, I've had this with Ron several times. That's why I pulled it, because I wanted, this seemed to be the striking point where we could try to get this issue straightened out. I think it's smart. Got to get the businesses up and running quicker, and no fault of anybody's. We're doing a lot of business out there in St. Clair Shores. Things are happening, and, people are excited and they want to get going, and this is going to be, hopefully helps them out a little bit. Just speed up the process a little bit. And I guess, if changes need to be made in the process too, then we look at that. And you said that maybe at a next study session or a future study session?
Not the next one.
We're loaded on the next one.
We are.
Okay, thanks,
Move to
Mayor.
approve L.
Support. I'll move to approve L, the one I
Frederick moved
pulled.
to approve 11L, and you supported that, Mr. Rubello?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
M.
M is grass cutting services. Just one quick question. It says this is for 20,000. It says the total amount budget is 20,000. This is in account. I'll just say the last three numbers, 035. We have budgeted in the budget 30 grand for that. Is there another use for that 10 grand? It was 20 in fiscal year 24. We did 30 in this latest budget. Under account 035.
I believe in the recommended budget, it was a $20,000.
It says, I have from the online budget, 2024 amended budget was 20, manager recommended 25 was 30, council voted 25 was 30.
So With the Excel, this is actually our delinquent grass cutting, so when we go over to their houses.
Right.
We do receive that back.
Right.
And
I was just
so
wondering
I think
if-
the history shows that it's been a little over 20. If we end up tracking it over, then we'll just do a PO amendment.
Okay.
But ultimately, this is a
I
pure.
just want to make sure we have
Yep.
enough in the PO that we are,
There's
you
enough in
know.
the budget.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Move it.
Move to approve.
Support.
All in favor to approve 11M? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, 6-0. Thank you. With that, we will move to updates and follow-ups from fire council meetings and a couple other updates we'll have up there too. So, Mr. Lent.
Mr. Karen mentioned that in the garbage waste contract, that a certain percentage of residents were using carts. There was a price reduction. He asked for administration to review this. We're currently reviewing this now. There was quite a few different documents with all the additions of Rizzo's contract and the extensions. So we're reviewing that with DPW and all the contract language from the past. Mr. Karen asked for the low bidder to price out the concrete mix design without the additive for the industrial drive patch project. The low bidder is using the standard mix design, ASTM standard C150, without the additive. Mr. Karen mentioned adding the blanket PO for tax and water printing on the consent agenda for the next meeting. The blanket purchase order for tax and water bid submitted to finance on 7/26/2024, so it should be in their POs to submit for the meeting. Ms. Rusi asked, I know, so I don't think that got put on there.
Yes,
So we'll make
carried
sure we
it to
have
the
it at
next
the
meeting.
next meeting.
Thank you.
I was actually just thinking, looking right now. Mr. Rusi asked for the mold report that was provided to council. Mr. Karen mentioned an error on the bills and the beautification budget. The Home Depot receipt should have been in there as the tree lighting is in the wrong account. That has been corrected. Mr. Karen mentioned that the overall expenses on the Christmas lights need to be reviewed. He said they probably need to go out to bid because it's over $15,000. A meeting was set up to discuss the Christmas lights going forward, and if they're over $15,000, we will go out to bid.
So when is that meeting going to take place?
We will be having that meeting with the current contractor to find out all the locations that we're utilizing and what the current bid is now outside of Tifa.
Don't we already know that number?
With what we're currently doing, we're compiling within the city limits, yes.
Why would we need to get that from the contractor? We know what we paid for all those in the last year.
Right. So the difference is when we're buying the lights, some are just for install, some are for new lights, and we've added locations. What is it just for the install and takedown? Not necessarily for the lights. And I don't believe it's over 15,000, but I could be, so we'll look at that.
Well, because that would be all of everything around City Hall.
Yep, fire
Court,
stations, court, police, and,
we don't do any, the wreaths at the fire station are beautification
oh, okay.
and that, so I don't think they do any other decorations. No, I would think would just have those numbers. We need to get that from the contractor.
And then the police department, next year, we most likely have any lights over there too.
That's
With
optimistic.
construction. Potentially. So, yeah, there are a lot of unknowns that we're looking at right now, and then
So can we
also
get
with the
that
lights.
prior to the next meeting?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
I can actually give you a breakdown of the prices that we're currently paid.
Okay.
Mr. Karen asked that there be a description on the bills for the ARPA funds. All invoices to be paid from ARPA fund will have detailed description listed. Copies of the invoices will also be provided if requested. Mr. Vitale asked for a list of all easements and all work DTE has done in city. An email from consumers was sent to council on 8/7. An email from DTE was sent on council on 8/14. I do understand that with the email from from DTE, it was a blob of just blobs everywhere. According to DTE, our rep, that cannot be provided because of DTE state regulation. We have now since called more individuals through DTE to find out if that is accurate or not. So we are waiting for that information.
Just maybe explain to residents. So DTE has told us that they cannot tell us the address of what is essentially city property, cannot be revealed to members of city government, so that we can essentially double check that they have restored said property, because they're hiding behind the idea that, well, someone lives at that address, so that's private information. This is the horrible, horrible company that your state government officials regulate.
Mr. Rusi asked to check with Smart, that they have a trash can that has been overflowing for weeks. Communication was sent to Smart, and we are working on making sure that trash can is being scheduled regularly.
It has looked better.
Okay, good.
Yes, yeah.
Mr. Rucci asked for an update on the post office parking lot lease. The lease was executed with the post office on 1/24/2024.
I have a question about that.
Ms. Rusi?
Thank you. We had discussed that very lease for Cavalier on a council meeting at July 17th, 2023. All the council tabled it because we had I was fine with the terms, but other council members had issues with the terms. I looked at the minutes and Mr. Frederick said we need to renegotiate, get Mr. Uri involved. He's in favor of tabling. Councilman Vitale wanted a 3-year lease looked at instead of 5. I don't think, did it ever come back to council? How was it executed in January if it was before council in July and we tabled it for negotiation to continue to occur? And I don't recall it ever coming back to council for our approval for the execution to happen.
I can partially answer that. It was renegotiated, and it took so long because the attorney, the firm that represents the post office, had to keep going back and forth to the feds to get permission.
We knew renegotiation was going to be lengthy given who we were negotiating with, but my question is why didn't it come back to council given it came to council for a blessing and approval once and we declined to do so, saying we wanted different terms and we wanted, why didn't we have to approve those new terms that were negotiated? We didn't make an approval as conditioned upon terms being negotiated. We tabled it for us to have it come back to us to discuss and approve the new terms that were before us that never came before us.
That particular question, I can't answer that question.
Can someone answer that question?
It was authorized and we can bring it back to council.
We've been living under this lease since January. The only reason why it even was brought up is because I asked about it, because I'm like, I remember that back in the day. I wonder what happened to that. And I had thought, quite frankly, maybe it slipped through the cracks as things do. I never thought administration executed it without our approval or consent to it. That's pretty ridiculous. It came to us for approval once, and we voted to table it. We said, no, take it back. And it never came back. Yeah, was it a 3-year or a 5-year? Because Councilman Vitale
we don't even know.
was wondering that. Was it a 3-year or a 5-year?
3-year, I believe it.
Oh, so, okay,
out to
so
be.
I
won.
You won. But that's the thing. How did that happen where administration executes a contract for city-owned property without council approving it? We weren't even aware of it. And in fact, it came to us once for approval, and we expressly said, we're not approving this, bring it back to us. How does that happen? It wasn't like, we didn't know council needed to approve it. It was put on our agenda for approval to begin with. So you can't even say, I didn't think council needed to approve it. No, you did, because we wasted time on one nice July meeting in 2023 on it, and it never came back to us. How does that happen? And not only did it not come back to us because, we forgot, it fell through the cracks, whoops, we gotta get that executed. It was executed absent our approval. How does that happen?
I'm not sure, but I do think we need to get that.
It doesn't matter at this point. What if we say no? What will we say no? No, it's already a signed contract.
Well, we got to get it in front of us.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
We don't know what it is.
Or I guess administration just doesn't need our approval on things. Why do we waste our time up here? I don't even know, because apparently what we say doesn't, I guess Councilman Vitale got his way, then we find out 7 months later. But it just is amazing to me, all that discussion that was had, and we take these things pretty seriously, and as you could tell from the stack of paper, to be fair, that's Dave's packet too, but it's a pretty big stack of paper. And we spend a lot of time on this. At the end of the day, I guess our approval's not needed, except, we can bless it after the fact. 7 months after the fact, which if I didn't question, hey, what happened to that thing? Would we ever have found out that this had been executed back in January and it never came to us for that approval? I don't know. That's the thing why I even asked this question at the last meeting, nobody knew what happened to it. It had to be researched that, oh yeah, we did sign that thing back in January. No one even remembered that to answer it when I asked it last meeting. And I find this out in an update that I read in my packet buried in, 11S, like, oh, and I guess when someone actually followed up on my question, they found out what the answer was, and that would have been nice to know, and maybe an email when it was found out, but I had to look to an update form to find that out. And it doesn't say council will come back, contract will come back for council to bless it after the fact. That had to be brought up when I questioned it. I think if I didn't question it, we would just moved on to Mr. Carey mentioning the Stevens water main project. So there's a lot of process and procedural issues with how this was handled all the way back in January, but even up to now.
Agreed.
And what happens?
I don't have an answer for you at this moment.
It's just crazy how many other things get executed that we're totally unaware of. Like I said, this wasn't even, oh, we didn't know council needed to approve that particular lease. No, you knew. We talked about it in July. It was up for us. If we would have been cool with the terms in July, we would have just executed it. You knew we needed council's approval for it. And it was something that we all chimed in on and weighed in on and cared about. It's just crazy. I have no, well, I talked a lot, but it's like I'm speechless. I guess I'm not, but I just have no good reaction, no positive reaction to this because this really concerns me on multiple levels. And I think it should concern everybody.
Agreed.
So hopefully someone else talks or says something, but I don't know. Maybe if you guys don't care about this particular issue, think about the issues you do care about if it was handled this way. And I'll go back to July 2023 when we first talked about this. I was fine with the 5-year lease that was presented. I was totally fine with the terms. I was probably, I think, from going through the minutes or remembering being in the conversation, the only one that was fine with it. But it's like, no, city attorney should look at it. I'll move to table it too. But other people, if everybody else up here had issues with the terms and questions, and we have no clue what was executed on our behalf. So hopefully that bugs other people.
Correct.
It does.
Agreed. It should have come from us. I mean, no question about it.
Yeah, it
You're
should
right.
have.
Totally.
So what happens? What's the consequence?
I don't have a consequence at this point.
Okay. It's just disturbing. And we should have known when it was discovered after I asked the question, because no one remembered back in July at the meeting. And we've had a month since that meeting. And I guess someone looked it up and researched it. A bunch of people got there, oh yeah, I remember that contract back in January. I did sign that thing. And then we don't find out via an email. I asked a question. I care about this, obviously. I asked a question. I'm not just wasting my own time up here. I guess sometimes I am. But I don't find out until one line item in the 11S packet what the answer is. Like I said, if I had questioned it, we would have just moved on to item 11 and it would have come back to us. Oh, Dave has his hand up.
I think what we were.
Well, hold on. I mean.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
I'll be done, but I'll see the floor for other people to chime in if they agree with this or not.
I think that most of that.
Hey, just a minute, Mr. I chair the meeting, so Mr. Ribello?
Okay. I think most of that came from, there was like parking and the social district. I think that's about how all that post office stuff came up, if I can recall.
I have the minutes. You can read the minutes if you want.
Wasn't it something like that?
Yes, it was that a multitude of
Anything
other
else,
issues.
Mr. Ribello?
No, I just
Mr.
remember why it was.
Just to chime in, I appreciate Candace's diligence on this. I mean, and my reasoning for 3 versus 5 was just that much shorter of a period of time to see what our parking needs might be for social district and downtown, et cetera, just to make it as short a contract as possible. But Candace is right.
I'm not saying she isn't, right?
I don't think anybody can say she isn't. It's just the idea of consequence. And I realize we're not going to do that up here, but yeah, it needs to come somewhere.
Anything else?
No.
Mr. Frederick?
I did ask it to be renegotiated if possible, but I mean, that's what I had said, but since it was already signed, what are we gonna do?
Mr. Karen?
I guess that's the exact point of how did it get signed? Who signed it?
I mean,
And you signed, okay.
Yeah, I signed it. So as most of our contracts that come up here, we take every contract to council. We took it to council. As we do, we have avid conversations and discussions. I don't negotiate the contracts. Those go right back to our law firm. As Mr. Erie had mentioned, this isn't a normal contract. You're working with the federal government. How soon and how quickly they get back to you is on their whim, just like it is with FEMA and Eagle. So Mr. Erie goes through and he works on the recommendations and the best agreement that he can get based on what council did. It drug on for months upon months.
Oh, I know, it would,
So
like I said, we
at that point, so Mr. Erie then sends it to my office and says, hey, I've negotiated this, here it is, can you sign it? At this point, did I completely remember that, hey, we took it in council? Because normally, when council makes a recommendation, it is a recommendation to allow legal counsel to negotiate the contract based on what you guys have, and it normally does not come back to council. It usually is negotiated at that time. After 6-7 months of negotiating, was it missed and was it signed when I get a letter from Mr. Erie saying, I've reviewed it, everything is good, go ahead and process the signature, I sign it. And then it goes back. That's how it happens. Really how it happens.
I guess, I'm sorry, I believe I had the floor.
Yeah.
That's the exact problem. You made an assumption of, rather than understanding, we tabled it, we didn't agree to it, we didn't have any.
I did.
We had suggestions, and it still got it still got signed without coming back to council. That's the whole problem. So, bringing it back now for us to approve after the fact, to Councilwoman Russi's point, is kind of pointless. Damage is already done. But how in
At
a
that point,
process
what was
thing,
the tough
how is the
space?
process thing of just making an assumption of, well, I think council thought it approved this, I'll just sign it.
Yep, it was a mistake on my behalf. I admit that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Russi?
And
And this is going back, I guess, maybe to John's point, Councilman Karen's point, previous in the meeting about, some of the dangers with changing the language and playing with the not really knowing exactly what we approve, because if we do that too much, I guess this is what might happen. We didn't just approve it conditionally upon renegotiation of this term or this oral change that's being stated, and no one kind of really knows what's being approved where, but you'll just, something will happen and we'll move on to, council comments and life will be great. Our thing was, in this one, motion by Councilmember Rebello, second by Councilmember Karen to TABLE, it's all in capitals, the lease for Cavalier Drive with the United States Postal Office for 1 5-year period beginning January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st. It wasn't anything even that could be construed as approval. It was a specific, we're stopping discussion. We said what we said, we directed how we directed. The issue at that moment is gone, and with the assumption if it's a table that comes back to us for approval. So there's that, maybe, maybe we need, to Councilman Karen's point, to stop doing that too, because maybe this is what happens sometimes, where things get executed that really don't reflect our approval. And actually, in this case, we didn't actually approve anything, but it got executed anyway. And who knows what the terms are. Because it would have been nice when this was discovered that it was executed, not just to have a line in an 11S council packet, but, to have an email saying, hey, dear council, we researched Councilmember Russi's question, we discovered it was executed, here's how that happened, and oh yeah, here's a copy of the contract too, versus brewing this out in 11S. Like I said, if I didn't raise I don't even remember if I raised my hand or just talked after agenda, update 10 was stated. If I didn't say anything, would we just moved on to item 11? And no one would have brought it up from administration. I guess we'll never know. Maybe I should have go to 11 and then brought it up, but it's frustrating. It's frustrating. It was a very robust discussion. People had a lot of well-reasoned, I think, opinions and input on this lease. And at the end of the day, I have no clue what lease we're operating under with the federal government. on this particular piece of property, but again, it doesn't really matter now anyway. Will come back to us, and if we look at it and say, no, we don't like this, what's the recourse? That's a question. What's the recourse, Bob?
None for 3 years.
None for 3 years.
Unless we deal with the federal government
Yeah, I don't
and their
want,
attorney in terms of asking them to
and to
change
say
some things.
whoopsie-daisy, council never approved it, so
They may
let's, yeah.
amend. It's possible that they would amend.
Doesn't sound impossible, but, okay. These things have consequences.
Mr. Vitale.
At the risk of belaboring this, I only want to put one fine point on something that Ms. Rusi said, is that sometimes we make refinements to contract language here, which are then approved or disapproved by vote. The difference there is that was tabled. So
That's
we
what-
never did.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe they got confused that that's what we did this. I don't know. It's just, it's frustrating.
Continue, Mr. Lint.
Mr. Karen mentioned the Stevenson water main repair. If we aren't going to have the patching done soon, can the asphalt patching be evened out? The contractor put additional coal patch into the areas where water main work was performed. Mr. Vitale mentioned 19690 East 9 Mile. That was boarded up with windows. He asked for an update. A vehicle hit the wall with the former cultivation station in May of 2024. The building inspector issued a notice citing several believed structural deficiencies and requested plans to repair the same. No plans have been submitted. A final notice of violation to repair the damaged wall was issued on 7/23 of 2024. Mr. Vitale mentioned.
Wait, so that means now it's in the city attorney's hands to pursue demolition, correct?
Robert?
If it's been sent to us, yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. In the meantime, I mean, it doesn't look like they're responding to us. They're not submitting plans. How long do we have to look at a boarded up eyesore? Can we go out there and paint it and bill them? OSB is not an acceptable building material.
Can we, Mr. Erie?
Well, I would certainly say before we would do that, we should have some written notice to them prior to just going on the property.
Okay, we don't even really, we can stand on the sidewalk and fix it actually, but we should at least require that to be painted. At a minimum, our own ICC code says that OSB is not a finished material. We're just going to look at it there for God knows how long it's going to drive through court. By the way, I figured out a car drove through it. There's a car-sized hole in it. And that's what anybody who drives through the city sees when they enter our city. So we put all this effort into making the city look nice when you cross the border, and we got the building here with a hole in it that a car drove through that the delinquent landlord doesn't want to do anything with. I think at the very least, we should paint it to match the rest of the building and bill them for it.
It appears that they've received an NOV at this point, not a citation. They received it on 7/23. It's a notice of
By the
violation,
way,
it's not a citation
It
yet.
was hit by a car in May. I figured somebody was working on it. Apparently not. How do you not see it?
Okay, what are we going to do?
Well, I presume that the NOV, which is identified as a final NOV, gave them a time period within which to finally take care of the obligations that they have, or the city will, number one, issue a citation of them. And if it is of such a nature that requires us to get in there and do work ourselves, we can take the necessary steps in court to accomplish that. I don't know what the date was for the NOV. Maybe Denise knows or not. I don't know, but what their time period was for correction.
The final NOV was issued on July 24th, as Mr. Lent indicated. The process now would be to request a complaint and warrant. So code enforcement will request a complaint and warrant. I've reached out to the building property manager, who is in Grosse Pointe Farms. He has not returned my call. We will send him a specific citation tomorrow. The citation was issued to the LLC, which is the building owner. I know the name of the registered agent and have, as I mentioned, called him myself, and he has not responded.
Do you think if I drove a car through a building in Grosse Pointe Farms, it would sit there since May with OSB boarding it up?
I do not, sir.
Why is that good enough for St. Clair Shores?
It isn't.
Okay. You know, actually, we don't have to enter the property to make it, mitigate it, and make it look better. It's, like I said, we could stand on the sidewalk and paint the OSB. So I don't know if we need a court order to do that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, maybe we could hire a local graffiti artist with a turbo can of Rust-Oleum. But, okay. Not that I'm suggesting someone tag it an appropriate shade of brown to match the brick, but, okay.
Okay.
Mr. Vitale mentioned the Thiel Court power lines. The lines are too close to the tree. The tree is ruining the fence. The property owner on Bayside has a violation notice to remove the dilapidated fence. They are working with code enforcement supervisors to come into compliance. Then we also had three residents. We had a Kevin R. at 22524 Euclid, St. Clair Shores. People living in tents across the street. No one is allowed to live in tents or sheds. No one is allowed to live in the vehicle. Proposed 2 new ordinances. CDI director followed up with the resident. Code enforcement was dispatched to the property. The resident is seeking an ordinance that would not allow people to park on the street for more than 2 hours a day, 2 hours daily. Police chief is researching the ability to regulate a public street in that manner. See attachment B. Janet Touts at 21225 Theo, St. Clair Shores resident, spoke on trees and DTE issues at her house. Refer back to the same issue with the power lines in the Thiel Court and the fence.
If I could jump in on that,
Yeah.
you kind of went to that one real quick. On the people living in tent, I don't really want an ordinance that says how long someone can park on the street. Is the situation remedied?
Yes, from the tents, yes,
Okay, so we don't have people living on the street anymore on Euclid?
from my understanding. Police department, do you have any update on that house? There's some more issues in that house, but.
Once we figured out what the address was, Ms. Pike sent that to me, and then we did a special attention on that address, so we've had regular patrols going by on every shift. If I don't recall seeing that address pop up again, if officers would experience something like that, they would have these, check them out through the system and have them move on their way. So I don't recall it being an issue anymore.
Okay. We have the residents leave their contact info. Could I get that resident's contact info? I'd like to call them and see if it's remedied.
Yep.
Or email them or whatever we have for them.
Diana Schaefer at 19707 Frazo spoke on her non-conforming driveway. CDI director met with Mr. Tomashuns on behalf of his mother, Mrs. Schaefer. Per the direction, the parking lot area will be allowed to remain. However, all other code enforcement issues must be complied with. At the time of the site visit on 8/1/2024, all code enforcement violations were completed and the court case was dismissed.
Excellent. Good.
Paul Tomashun spoke on her mother's behalf, referred to the last note. And then I also have 2 additional kind of things real quick. During the August 6th primary election, the city had 4 people vote absentee and also showed up in person to vote. That night, when tallying the results, the city clerk and her team were able to catch the error and notify the county and state election office immediately. St. Clair Shores Police and Macomb County Prosecutor's Office are working with the state and investigating the issue. And then we also have, we have been in constant contact with Priority Waste, and they are, I know Mr. Karen sent them a lengthy email asking them for detailed questions. As of today, their phone system is not 100% up and running. They're still working through a lot of their kinks on the phone system. Priority is informing staff And this week is probably, or sorry, end of last week and beginning of this week, which is today, and over the weekend was probably the least amount of phone calls that we came into on a Monday. So I'm hoping we're finally starting to see us turn the corner, and that we are being able to get a little bit better service from Priority. So.
With that, we'll go to comments by individual council members. Mr. Rubello.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if this might be for Dustin. I have some correspondence from.
Mr. Rubello, could you put your mic on?
Oh, thank you. I have some correspondence from a resident, and
down here?
If you could pass that down to Dustin, and Chris might be interested in that too.
Okay.
He may have even gotten one.
All righty.
A little bit on Priority. Hopefully things are getting better. Very disappointed over the last few weeks, and I know the residents, a good majority of them are too. So I talked a little bit to Dustin about this earlier. Dustin, I know you just said some stuff, but to use the word systematic problems, what is happening? I think John's used the word, but what's happening over there? Like, what type of?
We're talking with Priority?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, as we were aware, when they came to council and spoke, they took on a lot of local communities when they bought the GFL contract. It's been all over the news. Majority of the trucks that they purchased weren't the trucks that they initially agreed to purchase. They're in legal, right now, battle with GFL and the contract that they purchased. However, for our residents, what we expect is a trash company that's going to be picking their trash up. And right now, we have seen a trash company that has been missing some stops. We have seen a trash company that is behind in some of their days and their delivery methods. And we are working with them to make sure that they're going out and they're picking up any trashes that they have missed. We are working with them to make sure that they have a procedure and a protocol to be able to answer the residents' calls in a timely manner and get back with them as they had promised when they took over the contract. And as I can state, that the amount of calls and the complaints have dwindled almost every week. I guess in the grand scheme of things, they have only been our trash company for now 6 weeks. So they have taken on a lot. It does seem like a lot, but the last 4 weeks with GFL was also very, very painful during that transition. So we have dealt, as residents, they have dealt with a lackluster service for approximately 2.5 months. Of that, Priority is responsible for 6 weeks of that. And we're going to continue to work with them and hold their feet to the fire and make sure that their service continues to improve.
Okay, because it just doesn't make sense about when people are trying to leave messages on their phone that they're on hold for these ungodly amount of minutes and 20 minutes, half hours and things. And I think that really frustrates people. And I just want to say this really to the residents of St. Clair Shores, and, you know, not that it makes a huge difference, but we're not the only city that's having issues, very similar issues in other cities with Priority. Other cities are experiencing these types of things. It's just not St. Clair Shores, or it's not St. Clair Shores dropping the ball or anything like that. I mean, every council person up here, here's your residents, and we're fighting with you, and we're trying to get this thing fixed and resolved, because these are like very basic services for any residents. So, and I agree with you, Dustin. I've fielded a lot of phone calls over the past few weeks, and they do seem to be getting better this week anyways. So I had a conversation here with Denise Pike. You are going to help us identify the city-owned alleys in St. Clair Shores so we can start compiling some type of a list on that to see what we exactly have and how bad of a shape some of them are, and how good of a shape some of them are in, I guess. So with that, I wanted to mention, I don't know if folks heard, I think it might have been yesterday, that Mr. Fitzpatrick passed away.
Oh.
All of us know him. I know you've known him for a long time, Mayor. He had a good, healthy life. I was very lucky, I think, to have met him. He was at one point 2 years ago, I think 3 years ago or 2 years ago, he was our St. Clair Shores Vet of the Year in the parade. Very nice person, very nice family, and so if you know any of the Fitzpatricks, keep them in your prayers.
Sorry to hear that.
Yep, he's a good guy. I just was told that a couple of 2 days ago. So, Social District coming up this weekend, August 24th. I think Wednesday, right, is the end of the Music on the Lake. Is that the last one, Mayor?
It is not. Well, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So it's Rockstar, and we're trying to reschedule for September 4th. Mr. Rebello, I can't remember who, we had quite a few rainouts in the beginning. Stone Blossoms, maybe it was. I probably got this wrong, but I think it was the Stone Blossoms, and we're trying to put them on for September 4th and coordinate all of that. So it may not be our last one, but Rockstar is this one. But
Okay. Anyone who hasn't seen them, I'd go to the park on Wednesday because there's not too many groups that come through St. Clair Shores like this where you're going to enjoy them that much. They're a lot of fun. A lot of things happening over the past couple of days. I thought a really nice event for the dogs in Blossom Heath Park. The dog jumpers were there. They were the air dogs, and they're always a good time to watch. So it was great to go there. Guns and Hoses, Carol, I see you back there. Wonderful event with the Women's Civic League. A lot of fun. A nice turnout too. It was nice. A beautiful night. And Greek Fest. A lot going on at St. Clair Shores. The Greek Fest was a total blowout over there. We want to thank the people at Assumption Cultural Center for putting on such a great event. It's great for the city of St. Clair Shores. And one more time, everybody, the Harper Avenue Cruise, okay? And that's coming up Wednesday, August 28th, and that's 5 to 9. Maybe my favorite event in St. Clair Shores. I have a great night. That's a great time. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Rusi.
Thank you. I would have thought the parade was your favorite event.
It's not.
Well, this week it's the cruise.
He doesn't have to plan the
Just
cruise.
teasing you, it's hard to pick because there's a lot
some really
of
fun
great
time.
things going on. Echoing Dave, we also had the Cool City Committee Garage Sale weekend, even though the weather didn't exactly cooperate entirely. I know it was still another hit, and people enjoyed it. Again, the Assumption Greek Fest, that is always a really fun event in the city. Great food, too. Oh, my God. I ate there, I think, 4 times. I mean, I live right around the corner from it, but I don't eat anything else, really, that weekend when they have it. They have such good food. Echoing Dave's comments about the Women's Civic League Guns and Hoses, Police and Fire Charity Softball Game benefiting the Women's Civic League Civic Fund, the Great Lakes Burn Camp, and the St. Clair Shores Cops for Kids. So 3 great charities were helped out. It was a fun game. Congratulations to the team of the police, but thank you to the police and fire who both participated. And especially thank you to they called us the Small and Mighty group at the one of the announcements during it, and the Women's Civic League is very small, but we did accomplish a lot, and so I just want to say thank you to the members of the Women's Civic League. I'm going to read their names right now. It's not going to take very long because it's a very small group, but we were so grateful to the community for stepping up and supporting us, not only playing in the game, coming out and enjoying the game, It was great to see the families out there and a ton of, I'm not going to name these because there's like 100 of them, but a ton of businesses stepped up to support it with their donations of gift cards and gift certificates and prizes that we use for door prizes and things. So that helped get some excitement going for the event. So I want to say thank you to Janice Neuron, President, Sarah Didonis, Vice President, Event Chair, Debbie Powell, Treasurer. The interesting thing about Debbie is she lives in Florida now. So she actually came up from Florida to help with it, and with a car full of tents and everything to help put this event on. So she is still involved, even though she doesn't live here anymore. She is still, her heart's still here. Joy, Hannah, Carol, myself, Cassandra, that's my sister, and Barbara Therese. And that's it.
Thank you.
No, that's all the members.
Oh, that's.
Jeez.
Yes, okay, thank you.
And that's all the members. So thank you to Carol, she's in the audience today, for all your help, and thank you to the other members for making this event happen. It was our first, it's our 8th one, but it was our first one since COVID. So it's, hopefully we can get this tradition back up and running and get bigger and better every year. So, and hopefully the police don't lose the trophy again. Speaking of city events, I did see some discussion about an upcoming decision that's going to be made by, I guess, the Activities Committee about Halloween in the park in October, which Rob had posted that the event, which it used to be, I guess, 12 to 5, then it turned into 12 to 4, or 1 to 5, 1 to 4, with the first hour, 12 to 1 being for special needs. Now it's being contemplated of kind of down to 12 to 3, with special needs being a half hour, 11:30 to noon, which, I don't know, I would hate to see this event shortened. It's a really fun event. It actually generates revenue for the city with wristbands. It's fun I'm a vendor at it. I set up my inflatables and pass out candy with my family every year. And the thought of dragging all those inflatables out for 3 hours or 3.5 hours with a half hour less setup time sounds very daunting, and it's fun for the kids. I would hate to think that a shortened window means less wristbands will be sold, which means fewer kids can attend and partake, or it means the same amount of kids can attend but just be smushed up into a smaller window, which means the event will be more crowded. There will be more of a line for the donuts, more of a line for the cider, because you have the same number of people in a shorter window. So either you have fewer wristbands, which means less revenue and more importantly, less families being able to attend. Or you have the same amount of families attending in a smaller window, which just crowds up the event a lot more. So hopefully the Activities Committee takes those considerations into consideration when deciding how lengthy to make the event, because I've always thought the 1 to 4 for general admission with the wristbands was working pretty well. It's nice to have the wristbands because for a vendor, you know how many pieces of candy to bring because you know how many kids to expect. I was there before we had wristbands, and you would bring tons of candy, and if you get a beautiful day, you would risk running out. I remember when you're at it, my parents go out and buy more candy because it was such a beautiful day and a lot of people came out. So it's nice to have the wristbands, but I'm not in favor of, from a vendor perspective, at least personally, having it shortened for the families in the city. So I will keep advised of the decision that's going to be made, because I was disappointed to see it already, we took a 4-hour, 5-hour event, already shorten it again, with now less time for the special needs kids and then less time for the general admission kids. It just would be a disappointment. This is one of the, nice events in the city. I won't say it's my favorite event, but I will say it's one of my favorite events in the city. And I know a lot of families really enjoy it. It's one of we have a lot of events for adults, with kid activities, but a lot of beer tents and concerts and things like that appeal maybe more to adults. This is one event that definitely appeals more to the kids that the city puts on. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Through the inaugural pitch.
Mr. Karen.
Thank you.
Fence and hoses. Kip.
First, I'm just going to address something to Chief Allen to pass along as well to Chief Piper. So a very good friend of mine last week was in a very bad accident. She's in ICU, stable, we're hoping, but she has a fighting chance because of the fast reaction from both police and fire to get to the scene and get her transported to Ascension. So, just thanking you guys. I want to pass it along to both staffs, whoever was on there. I haven't asked for the reports yet. Family doesn't even want to know the details yet, as they're getting past this first point of getting her on the road to recovery. But whoever was involved, thank them for me. She has a fighting chance because of them. Thank you. Thank you. Back into council mode. So on the Halloween event, I kind of saw the same post yesterday, and the other thing I was surprised on was the date moved. It's always on the fourth Sunday of October, and it was actually when the post went up, I was actually looking, it's like, let me just make sure it was still that fourth Sunday. I pulled out the city calendar, nope, they had it down as the 20th, the third Sunday. And one of the things up here is that we're very programmed of certain things in the city are always the same day. Christmas tree lighting, first Friday. Fireworks, fourth Friday of June. Halloween in the park was always the fourth Sunday. So the decision why it got moved, I don't know what it was or who made it. It was obviously made a while ago. It was in the city calendar that way. These are the things that also need to get communicated, especially for the people that put all the time and effort into them. And to Councilwoman Rusi point, I would hate to see that event shortened since it's a very kid-focused event. We put on a very adult-focused events that go on for 9 hours. I would hate us that we're cutting back on the kid-focused event. So hopefully the Activities Committee takes that into account as they kind of start planning for the fall events this coming year.
We will.
All right, thank you, that's all.
Mr. Frederick.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to make sure on your notes, Dustin, that we review the trade inspectors and change or add, if we need more bodies, however, what may be options on how to do that. I want to get that in the notes. September 14th and 15th coming up at Veterans Memorial Park is the St. Clair Shores Fine Art Fair. That helps benefit the Miss St. Clair Shores pageant, which we seem to use the winners quite a bit in all of our events, even though it's not a official city sanctioned thing, but we definitely work hand in hand with those folks. So September 14th and 15th at Veterans Memorial Park. It's a juried art fair, which means they've actually checked these folks out and they're good. It's from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., September 14th and 15th. So let's talk a little bit of library. Bradley Coates will be discussing Michigan tea companies, and guests will be able to sample some of the teas. This will be on Saturday, September 7th at 2 p.m. Registration started today. Space is limited. You must be 18 years or older. Children ages 1 to 3 and their caregivers are invited to the toddler drop-in play at the library Saturday, September 7th from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Come have fun and meet new friends. No registration is required for that. Have fun and meet other homeschool families, Chris. This could be a good opportunity for you. All right, in the area during the homeschool hangout event on Tuesday, September 10th from 2 to 3.
Go to that.
Yeah. This drop-in program is for children ages 5 and up and their adults. No registration is required. This program is designed for homeschoolers, but all are welcome. Need reliable answers. This is a great statistic. Our librarians answered 1,711 questions just last month by phone or in person. So if you got a question, call or stop by the library and ask for a librarian. And then a patron comment. A patron rated our Garden Book Nook event 5 stars and had this to say: this event was so much fun. All of us in the family attended. We all had a magnificent time. This event allowed us to use our creative side. The materials that were provided were phenomenal and a fantastic activity. And then relative to some of the library hours, the library is going to be closed for Labor Day on Monday, September 2nd, and will reopen on Tuesday, September 3rd. And this is also when the library will resume our winter hours and be open on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I know we all got calls about the library not being open in the summer on Saturdays. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vitale.
Okay. I'm going to mention, like Councilwoman Rusi did, I want to apologize to the Greek Festival organizers that I did not reply to your RSVP for the event. I did not receive it, even though you guys spent the money on the stamp. It came to my city council mailbox. I did not receive it until the day after the actual event even began. However, I did make a point to get food from there this weekend, and the kebabs were off the hook, delicious. And it was actually, I was in Miss Rusi's neighborhood for the garage sale weekend conducting one, and that was a fun event. Sometimes I walked out of the house and thought somebody moved the radio outside the house, but I realized it was the Greek music I was hearing. But and that event in itself, the garage sale was a great event, although I did have people who said, you know, especially in that neighborhood, and I think Ms. Rusi probably backed this up, might be good to have the garage sale event on a different week than the Greek festival, because parking's already bad there and it doesn't help with the garage sale. But, you know, minor tweak there. A lot of nice things were said to me about the city by people who I don't think probably had any idea I had anything to do with the city, because I didn't wear a shirt and tie to run the garage sale. But I had a lot of nice comments on the city and the event, and some people who even came from further away. There was a couple that came from Wyandotte that had nothing to say, and that's nice, because Wyandotte's a nice city too. So that was good to hear all that. Let's see. Well, I've got a PowerPoint to bring up. So I did these, just, you know, these are just visuals that just show I've been working back and forth on an issue. I don't want to get into addresses or anything like that, but so what happens when we have a lawn that's on the list to cut? The cutting company does the notification, they come out to cut the grass, and then they get run off by the property owner. I did talk to city attorney on that. It basically comes down to a court order. But I guess what I don't understand is why we don't at some point then start taking a more aggressive approach. You see, one of the things they were cited for is junk, weeds. Should have had the junk in the backyard on that first one. But it's on there in 724, and we're now at the 19th. And I can tell you that, and I sent to council, I don't want to identify the house, but I sent to everyone on council the pile of garbage that's in the backyard, the weeds, the random trash strewn all over the place, still going on. And, you know, here we are, days, a month past when a couple months past when we first, 2.5 months past when we first took notice of this. And I asked what's our current legal status on this, and I got that we were going to pursue it under, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Pike, but we're going to pursue it under the civil infraction ordinance, which we were supposed to vote on tonight, but we didn't, so that's off the agenda. So now that's further down the road. Why aren't we using all the legal tools that we have at our disposal right now? Especially when we have just this gross non-compliance, this runoff, the people that are supposed to cut the grass. And by the way, how does that work in terms of them getting paid? Because they've done the notification step of this, but then they don't cut the grass. So I would think they're not doing notifications for free. So do we get charged as if they cut the grass, but we eat it because we're not billing it on their taxes? How's that going to work?
And that's a very unusual situation for something like that to happen.
Well, you're
The
damn right
ordinance
it's
does give
unusual.
us the authority to go onto the property, and if they breach the peace and I don't know if our contractor, I suppose it depends on when they got run off the property.
So I did ask Ms. Pike through email if we've ever had instances like this before, and did it require a police escort? And her answer was yes. So at least once before, we have done this. And I mean, do we hear back from Excel when they get run off the property? Do we have a category or some square in an Excel sheet or something that says run off property, not able to cut? And then shouldn't those then get stepped up to a higher level of enforcement?
When a property is sent to Excel and they arrive at the property and it's either completed or the property owner will not let them on the grass or on the property to cut the grass, our contract says that they get a show-up fee. So they do get paid a fee when they show up, and either the grass is already cut or they're not allowed to cut the grass. Anything in the backyard, I believe Mr. Erie will confirm, we are not allowed to go in there unless, and working with the city attorney, typically, if we send something for a complaint and warrant and the property owner fails to appear, at that point, the city attorney feels comfortable that we have attempted to engage the property owner to remedy the situation. That was the case with the other property that we went to, where we requested a police escort. So
Well, I would just say, let's get this on the same track.
Okay,
I don't have to give the street name up here. You know which one I'm talking about.
I do.
Let's get it on that same track, not worry about what ordinance we might theoretically pass at some date in the future.
Okay,
Let's put them on an aggressive track here. They're being aggressive to us, and they're being aggressive towards, neighbors in a respect. People in council will see the photographs of what I saw today.
I am, absolutely, we will start that enforcement tomorrow. I will let you know that court, currently, we are scheduling for October.
Yeah, well, that's part of the problem. I wish we'd gotten on this back in June. But, so, on a similar note, there was a property, I don't have the address at hand, but I think it's around Shock and 11 Mile, that we signed a demo contract directly across from Lakeview
correct.
High School. That was a long time ago that we approved a contract. Why isn't that house down yet? It's been through all the state remediations.
We went to circuit court for the final show cause. The property owner was there. The judge gave the property owner time to either sell the property or make repairs. So this
Wait,
is
how can that happen? We have a contract to demolish that house. We weren't already through that step?
Well, we were through the step. We had an issue with disconnection of utilities, your favorite public service provider. So we went back to court for the judge to instruct DTE to disconnect the power. At that time, the property owner showed up, and the judge gave the property owner additional time.
So now we've got staff time and energy and everything put into doing this, putting it out to bid and everything like that.
We have a contractor on the ready to tear the house down.
Are we going to bill can we add that for staff time here? I mean, this is ridiculous.
We certainly do for the attorney time. I don't think we have historically billed for the.
You know what, we should go and just tear off whatever we can tear off that house. I mean, I guess maybe now with the court order we can't.
Right.
But when we had the ability, there's plenty of things we could have done to that house without disconnecting the power. Just to make it that much further along. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Who's the judge?
Drzezinski.
Judge Drzezinski.
Yes, I believe
Do not
that's the
vote
correct.
for Judge Drzezinski because he doesn't give a damn about blight in the city of St. Clair Shores. What other remedy do we have? Terrible.
The court case is back in front of the judge on August 26th, on Monday.
Good, I hope the judge wants to live next door to that. Okay, well, let's move on. This time we'll talk about a government entity. So, this is Taylor Elementary School as of today. They've had a giant dirt mound there for about a year. I came today on the complaint of a resident. It looks like the dirt mound has been somewhat moved. Can you go to the next slide? A lot of it into storm sewers. Next slide, please. So how do they get away with not doing any kind of construction mesh to keep this stuff out of the sewers? Is it because they're a magical school district and they don't have to comply with laws?
No.
I mean, this is terrible. This is another governmental body. By the way, taxpayers in Lake Shore, your school district is sitting on a multi-million-dollar piece of property that they're doing nothing with, and they keep begging for you to give them a bond or give them a millage or whatever, when I guarantee you a developer would love to buy Taylor Middle School and put homes up there. And it's never going to be it's never going to be a school again, because the demographics for childbirth and everything like that absolutely do not support the number of elementary schools that we used to have in the city. So there is, God, I wouldn't be surprised if, that was a $3 million parcel that could be redeveloped. And they're just sitting on it, asking you for more money. And by the way, this is how they respect you. This is how they treat you. They put giant, and here's the other reason I'm aware of this. Because when it was originally brought to my attention, all the sidewalk squares were crushed by the bulldozer. Now, I went and looked at the sidewalk squares. The sidewalk squares look new. Did they pull permits? All right, well, whatever the address of Taylor Middle School is, let's see if they pulled permits for the sidewalks that look new. Pardon me?
I'm wondering if they have to.
Well, that's still our sidewalk. So, okay. Last slide, please. One nice thing about St. Clair Shores, it does get an inordinate amount of political attention for its size. So we will be hosting Governor of North Dakota, Kristi Noem.
South Dakota.
South Dakota, my mistake. South Dakota, Kristi Noem, and gubernatorial candidate Tudor Dixon will be at the Barrister Gardens this Friday. The tickets are actually free. You have to RSVP. Go to that web address there, bit.ly/46SLM9W. Anyways, go to that address if you want to have tickets to attend that event. St. Clair Shores gets visited by a lot of important people. So that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. City manager report, Dustin.
No comment.
You have nothing?
No report.
No report.
No report.
Item 15 is audience participation, a 5-minute time limit. The views and opinions expressed under audience participation are those of the individual citizen only and do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of the mayor, council, the city of St. Clair, administration, city of St. Clair Shores. Do we have anyone that would like to come up and talk? Joe? Yeah, you go first. Yes, sir, second. Come on up. Go, Joe. And then afterwards, you have to, your name and the city you reside in, and then Matt will show you where you got to sign in. Sir, why don't you come up over there, and we'll get you close. And then you can sign in too. Anyone else? Okay. Good evening.
Joseph Backus, 21120 Yale, St. Clair Shores. Now, Mr. Mayor, I was going to come here tonight originally and give a long, in-depth speech about the Kroger site plan, but because the Macomb Daily printed my opinion yesterday in their paper, a lot of what I was going to share was in there. But I still wanted to come tonight and share a couple things that happened 14 years ago when Kroger came here and asked to put a gas station on 9 Mile Road. My stance back then was not whether Kroger should have a gas station or not. My stance was very different from everybody that spoke at that time. So I just want to reflect on something. On the night at that council meeting, where City Council was going to vote on the Kroger gas station back in 2010. I sat in the front row, and next to me sat a gentleman who owned the Shell gas station on Greater Mac and around California Street. And what he shared with me that night, something I did not know at that time, that he had to pay a $40,000 fee to Kroger so that way his customers could use the Kroger points at his station. I didn't know that. So while I'm talking to him, Pete Rubino gets up and comes and sits by me. Now, Pete Rubino was your friend. You know him. He's a rock. He does not change his stances. He is firm way back then, okay? And he sat next to me, and we had a packed house that night. He sat next to me, and this was what he had said to me that night. He said, Joe, you can send your people home. I've changed your mind. I changed my mind. I'm not going with it. Are we good? And I said, yes. And I introduced him to the Shell gas station owner, okay? And they talked for a little bit. And Lord and behold, you guys voted in at night, and then Kroger puts their gas station at 9 in Jefferson. So that's the history behind it. But back in 2010, I did not come to City Council to say, tell Kroger no. My focus in 2010 is the same legitimate reasoning not to give them a gas station in 2024. My focus was 9 Mile Road itself. Regardless of any business asking for a gas station site, and that's the key word, site. So when I came in 2010, I told you guys at that time, I looked at every single mile road of St. Clair Shores, a 2-mile stretch of road. So I focused on 9 in Jefferson and drove 2 miles until I got to Kelly. And at that time, I counted how many gas stations were servicing that mile road, that corridor that I call 9 Mile Road corridor. And I came to council and said at that time, St. Clair Shores does not need a 9th gas station site to service 9 Mile Road. That's what I said 14 years ago. Okay, let's look at today's world. You have 2 gas station sites at 9 and Jefferson, okay, regardless of who they are. At 9 and Harper, you actually have 3 gas station sites servicing that area. You have a Shell gas station site right on the corner. And I saw on the signage, they honor Kroger points, which tells you that the owner of that Shell gas station pays a service fee to Kroger so the customers can use their points there. And I'm quite sure it's more than 40 grand after 14 years. Then if you go down 2 buildings north, you got a gas station there. Now, when I shop at that Kroger, I go to the entrance exit that's more south. And when I'm there, if I turn and look about 1 block over, there's Elizabeth Street. There's a gas station right there. It's about 3 or 4 blocks from the intersection. So those 3 gas stations service that area. So I would come to say, so why do we need a 4th one there? Okay, and that was the first thing I would say. So at that time, there's 5 sites to service 9 Mile Road. Now, when you get to the expressway, you got a gas station on our side of the expressway, and then you got a bigger one on the East Point side. And then you get to Kelly, which is 2 miles, you got the 8th one. That's what I said back in 2010. They're still there. Nothing's changed. So I'm coming to you guys to remind you that 9 Mile Road, that 2-mile stretch of land, does not need a 9th gas station site. And I will say this, I'll bet you, I'm probably not wrong on it. There is no other stretch of 2 miles anywhere in this county that has 8 gas stations servicing, not even on Gratiot. So I was going to come here today and simply say, you know what would be really cool? Because we know the world is changing. That Kroger doesn't come to you and give you a site plan for a gas station. Maybe they should think about the future and give you a site plan for electric car charging stations there. So they're not adding onto the number of gas station sites there. It'd be really cool if they came and gave you a site plan and moved back to 13 in Harper after they left us and moved to Roseville. But moving into the future, I would say it would be better for them to give you electric car charging stations because we know gasoline is phasing away and phasing out. Thank you.
I think actually Joe Sheets is coming to the Office Depot on
9 and 94.
94 right there. And I know that's East Point, but I think I had a, yes, sir. Anyone else? Right. Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Your name and the town you reside in. Pull that down. Thank you.
My name is Andrew Surwack. I'm a resident here in St. Clair Shores.
Okay.
And I wanted to come to the council today. First of all, thank you all very much for listening to us. Mayor, City Clerk Barrett. I was nearly not allowed to vote at St. Margaret's polling station this past primary election due to a severe clerical error and not following training or protocol. I would also like to address the city clerk's office day off after the primary, as it was not listed anywhere, and the terrible attitude by Stephen within the city clerk's office when asked about said discrepancy. August 6, 2024, around 12 p.m., I don't have a car. And at that time, I didn't have access to someone with a vehicle. St. Marcus is a short walk from my home, so I walked. About halfway, I realized I'd forgotten my precinct number and to check the weather. It rained buckets that day, unfortunately. Visibly soaked, I proceeded to the desk of the 16th precinct, where I was met by a young man named Lucius Ward. I asked him if he could scan my ID to see what precinct I belong to. He does and reports I'm not listed, but I could just be in the wrong precinct. He refers me to his superior, Eric Wilson, and to see what precinct I belong to. After giving my address, Eric verified I'm in precinct 18. As a note, Lucius, when uncertain of something, referred to a superior, which is what he's supposed to do. Commendable job by that young man. I go to the 18th precinct table to verify I was in the right place. I'm greeted by 3 women, Denise Stambaugh, Carolyn Russell, and an older unidentified blonde woman who told me that I looked like her daughter's friend, Dreadhead Dave, whoever that is. That woman has yet to be identified, and I would like her identified to continue my complaint with the Bureau of Elections. I refer to Denise, who is running the computer at the precinct table, and I asked her to scan my ID to verify my precinct. She scans my ID multiple times and says that I'm not showing up in their lists. Then Denise and the older blonde woman at the table tell me that my only recourse is to re-register with City Hall. I repeatedly state that I am registered, that I don't have a vehicle, and asked if there's any other recourse that I had at this polling station. A 3-mile walk through heavy rain by any person is a major ask. The 2 women repeated to go to City Hall with a too bad attitude. Defeated, I was uncertain what else I could do within my rights at this polling station, so I began to leave. It was about a few minutes of waiting on the rain to ease in the church's hall before I see Denise Stambaugh charging out of the gym. She says, "Oh my God, I'm so glad I found you. We can call the city clerk's office to verify your registration." Why wasn't I given that option in the first place? If it weren't for the rain, I would have been out the door having my right as a legal registered voter rescinded illegally. Also, why didn't Denise or unnamed blonde woman forward their confusion to a superior, like Lucius did? It was around this time Denise made the comment, "Don't feel bad, this has happened to a handful of people today." You mean registered people showing up, unregistered in your system, and potentially not allowing them to legally vote? I should have asked. Denise apologizes, calls the city clerk's office to verify. I was verified by the city clerk's office, but Denise was still uncertain if I could vote. Just then, Carolyn, who seems this is her first election ever, calls out, "I found you on our system." According to her, what they didn't do all this time was type my name in the search engine. So due to not following protocol, proper training by Denise and the older unidentified blonde woman, I was almost not allowed to vote that day. I was eventually given a ballot, voted, and left. I referred my grievance to the assistant city clerk, thinking this was a computer error across precincts. The assistant clerk said typing names in the search was part of their training, and she was horrified by my story. I returned to the polling station for names of the workers. Carolyn was the only one up front to give me her name, take responsibility for the issue, despite following her training and not being the issue, and not being the person that helped me. I commended her bravery and honesty and for following her training. Denise, on the other hand, hid and ran when I asked for her name. Unnamed blonde woman was nowhere to be found. If there were no name tags, I wouldn't have Denise Stambaugh's name. Fast forward to August 7th, clear day. Decide to ride my bike to the city clerk's office to FOIA worker names, only to find the office closed. No listing on the website, no listing anywhere. except for a listing on the front desk. Yeah, that really gets the word out. I leave a note with Vicky at the front tax office, who was very professional and helpful. Thank you to her. I call the clerk's office the next day, August 8th, around 10 a.m. Stephen answers the phone. I ask about the previous day's unscheduled closure, why it was not listed, and that I have the website in front of me with no listing. His response, I assure you, it's on our website. He repeatedly mentioned this. He later was forced to apologize with the city clerk. And that's my time, thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew's my grandson.
Okay, your name?
My name is Corinne Franks.
And you reside where? St. Clair Shores?
Andrew, I don't know. It's on,
Okay, where do you live, ma'am?
I forget I'm new to the house.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, but it's over by 13 Mile.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Yeah,
When I went in to vote,
yes.
the guy just took my license. Oh, you're not registered? He handed me a form to fill out.
Yes.
I filled out the form, he gave me the ballot, and I went to vote. And then he said, would you like to register so you can get, on the, sure. Now, why didn't they do the same thing for Andrew as what they did to me? I had a driver's license, he had a driver's license. And to find out that he got kicked around like a piece of garbage is unacceptable. We should all be treated the same. I don't care if you're old or you're young. We should all be treated the same. We're residents, we pay our taxes. I'm new to the area. I mean, I lived in Grosse Pointe Farms for 44 years before I moved over here. So that's just my 2 cents. And I think that somebody needs to talk to people and say, treat the young kids just as well as you do the old people.
Okay, thank you. If you don't mind signing, thank you. Anyone else? We'll go back to mayor's comments. I don't have any, so a motion to adjourn and be in order.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Karen, supported by Mr. Frederick to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Good night.